that I'm there a lot. I'm there every game, and I've seen LaMelo get the best of Tyrese Halliburton. But then you see what Halliburton does in a playoff scenario, and that he can work off the ball.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Perfect.
That was great, dude.
Okay.
Just keep going.
That was
The NBA Draft is an event built for live reaction in real time as Hornets fans and fans of 29 other teams in the association hope the dreams of their franchise that are resting on the shoulders of these giants that are mostly less than 20 years old. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus NBA Draft Special. We are going to watch the draft with you and react live and then break down all of the picks, especially when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets at 4, if they pick 4, and also the trio of Duke Blue Devils who are in Brooklyn tonight, hoping to hear their names called, and they will certainly be called. We are live everywhere tonight for you from uptown Charlotte at the Hornets' temporary draft headquarters, where they will be making that pick. We are also live all the way up in Brooklyn, New York at the Barclays Center. Logan Campbell standing by, where Cooper Flagg will hear his name at number 1 from the Dallas Mavericks. And back here in Charlotte in South End, we are live at the Hornets draft party. Hornets fans have been burned so many times in the first round of the draft, but they are hopeful that a new management has pointed them in the right direction. Welcome back in. I am your host, Nick Carboni, and I am joined tonight by a very special guest and co-host, member of the Charlotte Hornets beat. He's there day in, day out, even when they only win 19 games. It's Jeremy Grandison, from also co-founder of Lock It or Leave It. Jeremy, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. In honor of the draft, I was doing some scouting myself. I watched the Walker video, and you said he may be the tallest guest. I may be the shortest
We had
guest.
to bump up the chair a little bit,
Absolutely.
so thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that. Okay, Jeremy, we're going to break down every single scenario tonight, from picking at 4 to trading back to maybe even trading up, although I'm not sure that will happen. But let's just cut to the chase off the top of the show. Who are the Hornets walking away from this draft with tonight?
I think when it's all said and done, Trey Johnson will be donning the teal and purple for the Charlotte Hornets. I think what he does from a ball handling, playmaking perspective, as a shot creator too, someone who can knock down an open three. We've seen that Charles Lee's systems are very three-point reliant. I think when it's all said and done, Trey Johnson will be a Hornet. But, as you said earlier, a lot of options coming.
All right, well, let's take a look at the top 10 in this draft as it stands right now, because we all know that could and probably will change in about the next hour or so. Somehow, the Dallas Mavericks, who traded star Luka Doncic mid-season, who made the NBA Finals just a year ago, have the number 1 pick and the rights to select Cooper Flagg to add to their cachet tonight. The Hornets, the sting may or may not have worn off from last month's lottery, not getting number 1. But of the teams that had the best chance, they still have the best pick at number 4. Number 4, Jeremy, in this draft. How do you feel about that spot?
I like number 4 a lot. I know people might say, like you said, not 1 or 2 or 3. The Sixers, the Spurs, and the Mavericks occupy those positions. However, there's so much talent once you get to pick number 4. And also, looking back to last year, I truly think that the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th picks maybe in this draft would go higher than where they're going this year.
All right, if we can bring back the top 10 order once again. Jeremy, do you think it's going chalk? Do you think this is how this draft will go down tonight? Or do you think there will be heavy movement in that top 10? We've seen movement in the NBA all week long.
I think there's going to be movement. There's always movement. In a draft like this, especially where teams, and we see where the NBA is right now, anyone can go from bottom to first. We saw the Pistons last year go from a team that was mocked for losing 28 straight games to now making a deep playoff run or a first-round playoff run and giving the Knicks a run for their money. So every team thinks they have a shot in the modern NBA. There hasn't been a repeat champion in 7 years, and for that reason, I think we're going to see some surprising stuff happen this evening.
All right, could it be at number 4 with the Hornets? Jeremy, want to ask you this real quick before we hear from the man himself. Jeff Peterson now in his 2nd draft as president of basketball operations here in Charlotte. I know the Hornets fans that are posted up at the Casey by Beaumont, North Tryon Street in South End, where we have a camera as well tonight. They are hopeful, but they remember all the bad times, right, in the first round. What do you think about Jeff Peterson and his direction that he's trying to take this franchise in right now?
Well, let me say this. For players, the NBA playoffs is where you prove your worth. for GMs and front offices, this is their NBA playoffs. This is Jeff Peterson's time to show this is why I'm the president of basketball operations. This is how I leave my mark. And for better or worse, you are tied to the players you draft going forward as a GM. So I do think Jeff has done a great job so far. I'm interested to see if he goes for another kind of out there pick with a Tidjane Salaun-esque guy, but there's so much talent in this top 10 that I don't think there's a lot of wrong options.
All right. Jeremy, we'll have more with you in a moment. First, I want to get to right outside where Jeff Peterson and the rest of the Hornets brass will make that pick tonight. And we go live to Danielle Stein in Uptown Charlotte. Danielle, not at Spectrum Center for good reason, though.
Yeah, this is the second straight year that the draft headquarters are here at Fifth Third Bank in Uptown. That is because, of course, Spectrum Center is getting a bit of a facelift. They're in their second phase of those renovations. We don't think they will be seeing those renovations finished until October. So, yeah, for now we are here in Uptown, and we will be getting the word from Jeff Peterson following the conclusion of the first round tonight.
All right, Danielle, Hornets fans, and we're watching them live in South End tonight, they almost expect it to go badly. We've shown the picture all week of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a Hornets hat, traded him within that same draft, the obviously infamous picture of Kobe Bryant in a Hornets hat. There's a lot more context and layers to that one, of course. What do you make of Jeff Peterson and the dynamic in the front office since he's taken over the last couple of years? And we haven't heard from him before this draft. We haven't heard from him in a few months. But what did you glean from his comments in April about what he might do tonight?
Yeah, the last time we heard from him was back actually in April, as you mentioned, during exit interviews. But ever since he came to Charlotte and took over as the president of basketball operations, it's been pretty clear that he is the one who is going to be leading the show tonight as they're going into the draft. This, of course, is coming after that 19-63 season. So we know that there's a number of different directions this team could be going in when it comes to solving some of their problems. Not necessarily one right answer one way or the other. He will be looking, though, for someone who is going to be fitting into the philosophy that he has been bringing into Charlotte between establishing a culture of guys being together, hard work and daily improvement. Those are the things that he talked about all year long and repeated at the end of April, and he wants those players to be following under a similar way. And we could be seeing, again, a number of different guys or maybe a move in this draft to get some more assets. But we know one thing for sure, that he will be the one calling the shots.
All right, let's hear from Jeff Peterson, because we always want to know about the timeline of this team. And, are they ready to compete now? Are they still trying to add assets and prospects? So this is what Jeff Peterson said back in April, as Danielle referenced.
I think the goal is always to be a consistent winner. We want to, put a sustainable product on the floor. That's been my goal since I interviewed with the job, and fortunately it's in line with ownership and Charles's vision as well. Again, look, no one's happy that we won 19 games this year. No one in the locker room, no one in the front office, the coaching staff, medical performance. That's not fun, quite frankly. So in terms of timeline, obviously the season just ended. Charles and I are going to have some long conversations and really reevaluate and reflect on exactly what this team needs. But look, the goal next year is to win, to compete for the playoffs, and we're going to do everything in our power to do it. Again, I will double down on we're not going to expedite anything. We're not going to skip steps. I think there's plenty of examples that we've seen around the league and other sports teams and franchises that when you try to skip steps and go too fast, that's when big mistakes end up happening. Ones that really hard to crawl out of that hole. So we're going to be patient, diligent, opportunistic, very strategic in terms of how we build it. Because as I've said before, I don't have any interest in coming here for a year, making the playoffs, and then we jeopardized our future or compromised our flexibility moving forward, and then we're out of the playoffs for another 3 or 4 years. So.
Okay, Danielle, help me out here. Want to make the playoffs next year, but don't want to skip steps. I don't know how all that works, but Jeff Peterson has shown early, as young as he is, to be a master of saying a lot, but saying nothing at all, and virtually saying nothing at all in the weeks and days leading up to this draft. Meanwhile, a lot of folks out there think that their pick at number 4 could be the pivot point for a lot of movement in this draft. Do we think Jeff Peterson is ready to shake up the top 10?
Yeah, we heard from ESPN insider Shams Charania actually talking about the Hornets at that number 4 pick. He said 4 is a pretty interesting spot to be in because at that position you have to study those picks before you, but you also have to be aware of all the other potential assets that you could be getting if you were to trade back. So I do think that the Hornets could go in a number of different directions. Of course, that does come from having a team that has multiple different needs where they might be looking to trade back and get multiple guys that they're interested in. If they maybe have that one guy they are really set on, maybe they will stay at 4 and keep that going as well. We don't know what they're going to do yet. Just at this point, of course, we're going to be finding that out in about an hour, but it seems like the one thing that we said is clear. Jeff is the one who is going to be calling the shots, that he has been talking about building this team to the philosophies that he wants them to be part of, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it all shakes out.
All right, Danielle Stein live from outside, I don't want to call it Hornets headquarters, Fifth Third Bank temporary headquarters there in Uptown Charlotte. We'll hear from Jeff Peterson after the first round tonight, and Danielle will join us after the pick is made, whenever it is made. So back here in the studio as we continue our NBA draft special here on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus, back here with my co-host Jeremy Granderson. Let's have a little fun, Jeremy, and I don't know how fun it will be, but the Hornets have had a 9-year playoff drought. That is the longest active playoff drought in the National Basketball Association. So let's go through their first rounds over the course of those 9 years. 2016, they draft and trade Malachi Richardson. I'm not sure, how much stock we look at the players they could have had, but 28 other teams could have had DeJounte Murray that year.
Yeah, it's hard to go back and nitpick what a team should have done, especially when it's an entirely different NBA too. The NBA goes through eras, and I think that trying to make a pick depending on one era isn't great when you have to look at where the NBA is headed, not just where it is right now. So for 2016, as you said, can't go back and say they should have done something else. I'm okay with what happened there.
Hey, they did get Marco Bellinelli, and he was fun.
Shout out to Marco.
Yeah, shout out to Marco Bellinelli. 2017, this was the kind of power dynamic between Coach Steve Clifford and owner Michael Jordan at the time. They take Malik Monk, who's turned himself into a solid NBA player in other uniforms, but could have had Donovan Mitchell 2 picks later. Hornets fans still lamenting that one.
Yeah, the Donovan Mitchell one hurts, and I want to give a shout-out to a good friend of mine and the host of the Highway 49 podcast. That's Hunter Bailey. We actually had Donovan Mitchell Sr. on 1 month ago, and he told us that they thought he was going to be donning the teal and purple. Fun fact, Donovan Mitchell Sr. also played baseball at the University of Charlotte, so there's ties there to the Queen City. They thought it was happening. Unfortunately, it didn't, and we saw how Donovan Mitchell rookie season went. Dunk contest champion, first-round playoff series win against Russ, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony.
All right, beyond Mitchell, you could have solved some center issues for a while with some of the other guys on there. The next year, this one is the one that hurts the most right now, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a Hornets hat on draft night, traded minutes later to the LA Clippers for Miles Bridges, and man, does that one sting right about now.
Yeah, it's tough because Miles has been the Iron Man for this team. When I go to those games, as you said, 19-win seasons, but who's out there consistently giving you 25 and 10 is Miles Bridges. But when you look at what Shai has done, his body of work, not just this year, but as a rookie, what he did on the Thunder with Chris Paul going under his wing, the guy has seen winning. He knows how to do it. He's done it in playoff scenarios. So yeah, that one stings, but the future is now.
All right, 2019, P.J. Washington, solid player, got a second contract. To me, it's like P.J. Washington, if he was on the Heat and Tyler Hero was on the Hornets, it's kind of a wash. So I don't think we need to dive too much into that one. 2020, I think you look at LaMelo Ball still as the correct pick in 2020. And Tyrese Halliburton, they were kind of even until this year when Halliburton made that magical run to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. 2021. Oh, boy. James Bouknight, not in the NBA. Kai Jones, barely in the NBA. James Bouknight and Kai Jones, off-the-court problems. This is the one Hornets fans point to as just the, probably the door closing on any sort of opportunity for that era of Hornets basketball.
I don't want to, dox myself here, but I was a junior at Florida State University. Watching the draft, and I was saying, James Bouknight, fall to us.
Yeah,
because
a lot
I
of people
thought
were.
he was going to be Jamal Murray-esque. And you know what? We can't all be right.
But we don't have the access to the background information that NBA teams do. And there were certainly things about Book Night coming out of UConn that should have been red flags for Mitch Kupchak and the Charlotte Hornets. 2022, they draft and trade Jalen Duren, Mark Williams. That's still kind of a battle that I'm not sure. I don't know if you can say that's definitive yet. 23, we think they did well with Brandon Miller. And in fact, Brandon Miller is taking a seat right now at the Hornets fan draft party at the KC by Beaumont on North Tryon Street. We ought to hear from Brandon in just a few minutes about what he thinks the Hornets will do. I wonder if he knows. Do you think he knows?
I don't think
Are they asking
knows.
Brandon Miller yet? Okay. We know who's going number one, and that is going to be Duke's Cooper Flagg. So we want to get live to Brooklyn, New York, where our Logan Campbell is standing by. She's been reporting from Brooklyn all week long for us here on WCNC and WFMY. Logan, set the stage for us. I mean, 18 years old, one of the youngest people in this young draft, and he's about to have a life-changing experience in about an hour.
Yeah, one of the youngest guys ever in the NBA to hear their name called. The only person that was younger was LeBron James. And Nick, we have fans just walking up and down the concourse here. I will say we've seen one person in a Charlotte Hornets jersey, so there is some Charlotte representation here, but everyone is just so excited about Cooper Flagg. There literally was a group of teenage boys who had flags with his face on it, draped around them, just walking up and down the concourse. So you can call this NBA Draft Day, Flag Day. Experts are calling this the Cooper Flagg draft, and it is very much so deserved after everything that he did at Duke. So he's expected to go first overall to the Dallas Mavericks, and before he even stepped foot into Dallas, the expectations are so high for this 18-year-old. So the question is, how is he handling all of the pressure?
Like I said earlier about expectations, and I don't hold myself to other people's expectations or what people want to see about from me or what they say. So for me, I'm going to play to my expectation of myself, and that's just being as good as I can and trying to impact the game in as many ways on every given play. So I'm just trying to be an impact player on the court, and I'm just trying to get better every single day.
All right, Logan.
All right, so
go ahead, Logan. Yep.
Obviously, he's taking it day by day, taking in the moment. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, the sense I get from he and Con Knippel are they are just the most even-keeled kids who are about to be top 5 potentially picks in the NBA. You covered them all year. Like, what are these guys like to be around when there's all this attention and pressure?
It's really funny. Con is like a little firecracker. When we were talking to him during the season, he just had this spunk about him that you don't typically see from 18-year-olds. And when we saw him yesterday and we talked with him yesterday, I was saying this to our photographer here at B-Hall. I have never seen him so happy and so smiley to be somewhere and talking to people, because we didn't typically see that all the time at Duke. And then Kaman Malawich is just the happiest-go-lucky guy. He was just saying that he is so excited to not only be here for Duke, but his entire country of Africa. He said that his story is one of inspiration, and he's hoping that if he gets drafted tonight, that he inspires everyone that if you come from nothing, you can still make something out of your life.
All right, so what's the process from here in Brooklyn, Logan? Like, there's so much happening before the draft even starts, before picks are even made. These guys have been in town for a couple of days. It's got to be exhausting. And what do we got for what's Cooper Flagg wearing tonight? Do we know yet?
Yes, we actually do know. All of the top prospects were on the stage taking pictures. He's wearing a nice suit. His family is here, including his brother Ace, his mom and dad. His mom looks beautiful, by the way. Khan's family's is here, and there's like 1 million of them, so all the little Knipples have been running around the stage too. Everyone just looks beautiful. He's got on his family, he has like an 8-year-old brother. He's got on the nicest suit I've ever seen an 8-year-old wear. Everyone just looks so nice, but you could tell how tense they kind of are. Khan's mom and Cooper's mom, they're running around just trying to get their ducks in a row, make sure everyone is in their places as soon as the clock strikes 8, because we know Cooper Flagg is going pretty quickly off the board.
All right, Logan Campbell live for us from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. We thank you, Logan, and I know you're going to be running around because Cooper Flagg is going to go off the board early. The Hornets are supposedly picking at 4. That could be Con Knippel, and then Kamen Malawesh. What a story, as you've mentioned and reported on all week. Thank you, Logan. All right, back here with Jeremy Grandison on our WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus NBA Draft Special. We are about 40 minutes away from Cooper Flagg's name being called by Adam Silver to the Dallas Mavericks. That's a no-brainer. But, Jeremy, after that, Dylan Harper, I think that's a 99% lock. Is it to the Spurs?
I think it is. When I look at Dylan Harper, you see a big guard that has the ability to have that fast twitch movement. You've seen that from a lot of guys like Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham, from that ilk. But also with Dylan Harper, it's weird where you look at the Spurs roster and they have Stephon Castle. Now they're adding Dylan Harper. They have De'Aaron Fox. You have a lot of backcourt depth, but those backcourt players can also lock you down on defense. So you don't want to just have Victor Wembanyama and surround him with offensive guys. I think they're building a defensive identity, and Dylan Harper fits that as well.
All right, is there we haven't heard any talk about the Hornets moving up. Would they even have the assets to move up to 2 to draft Dylan Harper, who seems to be a potential perennial all-star just short of Cooper Flagg's caliber?
You would have to give the Kings ransom to the Spurs. I don't think they're willing to move. If you're the Spurs group, the ownership, you're thinking, we got lucky enough to get 2. Let's not risk anything. Let's not try our luck. We have our guy. We know who we want. Let's stick with him. I don't see the Hornets moving up to 2.
All right, and potentially moving back. We will discuss that in a moment. But 3, Jeremy, is the clear pivot point in this draft, and that pick belongs to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, many prognosticators, draft analysts, scouts would tell you Ace Bailey has the 3rd most talent in the draft, but most people don't think he's going to be drafted 3rd by Philadelphia. What do you make of Ace Bailey, and what have you made of his pre-draft process and some of the negativity that's kind of in the headlines surrounding everything surrounding Ace Bailey?
If you are that confident in your game and you think you will step into the NBA and be a 15, 20-point per game scorer, then by all means, dictate where you want to go. The only problem with that is Ace Bailey's shot selection, the way he wants to play the game, might not be conducive to how the modern NBA is played. A lot of tough contested mid-range shots. The assist-to-turnover ratio isn't great, but that's why he's trying to go somewhere that will allow him the freedom, the offensive freedom, to grow game by game, and I don't think the 76ers are that destination.
Is Charlotte, and before we get to whether he'll wear a Hornets hat or not, because that's different, is Charlotte, and I know you don't want to draft on fit right now, but we heard from Jeff Peterson, this is a team right now trying to simultaneously, supposedly, compete for at least the play-in spot, evaluate its core, and see if LaMelo Ball specifically is a cornerstone of this roster. Does that fit in with picking a kid who looks to be 3 to 5 years away from achieving his potential, and in order to achieve it is going to need the time on an NBA floor?
I don't think so. A lot of people see Ace's talent and think, take the guy who's the best player remaining in the draft. And my pushback to that would be scaling back as a player is really hard. If you are a guy who has a shot diet, a shot profile that's set, it's really hard to say, you know what, I'm going to scrap that from my game and play to what Coach Lee in this perspective, in this scenario, what he wants to do. It's a lot harder for a guy like Ace Bailey to do that, and for that reason, I think getting a guy like Con Knippel or Trey Johnson that's a more malleable player would be better for the Hornets.
What do you think of the pre-draft process for the Charlotte Hornets? Because this is the 2nd year in a row we have not gone to workouts as the media. Those workouts have seldom been reported, and oftentimes when they do, they are misreported. I think in that vacuum of no information, you're getting a lot of misinformation. Now, I think we can deduce that Ace Bailey did not work out for the Hornets. He only wanted to work out for a few teams that are coming after the Hornets. But removing Ace Bailey from this question, what have you thought of Jeff Peterson's approach to, mum is the word in this process?
I like it. I do think that me as a spectator, as a fan, as someone who covers the NBA and this team specifically, I kind of want to put my blinders on when you're a month, a week out from the NBA draft because, like you said, there are so many reports coming. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's sticking. And I think Jeff Peterson might be using that to his advantage, especially with someone like Ace Bailey. If you can convince someone outside the top 4 that you might take him, then you could get some leverage to maybe trade back, allow them to give you some more draft capital, and then get the guy you still want. We saw this happen back in 2017 with the Celtics and Jason Tatum. They convinced the 76ers to trade up. They went back and they still got their guy.
Just Jeff Peterson, as young as he is, have the savvy, the relationships around the league to pull something off. And if he does, where have we seen that in his, about 2 years on the job? Like, what moves stick out to you as, like, this guy, he knows a lot of people around the league and he can get things done?
Nick, we saw it. We saw him pull off a trade with the Lakers for Mark Williams.
Well, yeah.
Where Hornets fans were saying, wow.
I don't see it in the history books, though. Where did it go?
It might be like the in-season tournament,
Yeah.
Those stats don't show up on Basketball Reference, but that's a scenario where you were able to get Dalton Connect, someone that you were targeting in the NBA draft. You were able to get an unprotected first rounder from the Lakers that was really valuable. And the Lakers brass said, you know what? The reception we're getting from our fan base isn't what we thought. Let's try and go and reverse what happened. We have cold feet. That showed me that Jeff was able to make that trade. He had the savvy to go out and do that, but of course we know how that ended.
All right, Jeremy Grandison, much more with you in a moment, sir. We want to get up to WFMY's studio in Greensboro because, listen, there's a whole lot of Duke in this lottery. 3 guys that we know are going to hear their names called tonight. Jalen Gilkey. Jalen, where's the Tar Heel blue, man?
Well, the only Tar Heel we're probably going to see drafted, whether it be tonight or tomorrow, is going to be the wing, the freshman from here in the Hoop State, Drake Powell. If you look at their stat sheet, if you look at the Tar Heel stat sheet from this season, not a name that really sticks out per se when you're just looking at the numbers, but when you watch the games, you could feel his impact. He's a long, rangy wing, about 6'5", I do believe, and his wingspan is 7 foot plus. I just wrote that down today as well. We've learned, and we saw that he's a very good perimeter defender, kind of streaky from 3, but he's kind of projected out to be a 3-and-D guy for the Tar Heels. So I think Drake Powell is going to be the Tar Heel that has the best chance of hearing his name called over the next 48 hours.
And you cover these teams full-time in the Triangle, Jalen. How discerning is that for Carolina fans that, a guy basically just taking the chance on his potential, didn't do much significant at all in his college season, is the only guy they may hear called tonight that wears Carolina blue?
Well, I think this is something that the Carolina Tar Heel faithful have been accustomed to, unfortunately. The last Tar Heel that was even drafted was Day'Ron Sharpe back in 2021. And here we are in the 2025 draft. And to say something like that about a blue blood program, one of the greatest college basketball programs in the nation, just to say that their last draft pick was 4 years ago is a bit absurd. But unfortunately, I think this is kind of something that is par for the course for the Tar Heel fan base now. It just looks like the style of basketball that Carolina likes to play. They love to play 2 bigs. They love a ball-dominant guard. They run a lot of pick and roll, which is, you see in the NBA. But again, with those 2 bigs out there, not necessarily stretched 4 or 5 guys that can shoot, it's a bit of an older school of brand and fashion of basketball right now. So that's why we're not seeing as many Tar Heels come out in the draft as of lately. And I took down some notes earlier today for you, Nick. The last Tar Heel that was drafted that has received any postseason accolades in the NBA, Kobe White, and that's when he made the second-team All-Rookie team in the 2019 draft.
I think that deserves a wow, like Kobe White. That's a great one, Jalen, man. That's crazy. And we just used to be we were so accustomed to, as you said, every time an NBA team comes to Spectrum Center to play the Charlotte Hornets, it's loaded with Tar Heels. Duke it's not like Duke came out of nowhere here, right? But, they are clearly dominating the recruiting in that area. Let's talk about the team in Winston-Salem that I know you cover too. Hunter Salas is an awfully talented kid. He was really fun to watch in college college. What do you think his future holds in the next 2 nights?
Well, Hunter Sallis is going to be a very interesting name because from what I've been reading is that a lot of NBA scouts, they either love him or they don't see a future for him in the NBA. So it just kind of depends on the fit and what it is that you see with him as a player. He's rangy. He's about 6'5", 6'6", ball-dominant guard. So he's a bigger guard, which fits in the game today in the NBA, as we see when you got guys like Wemby and Chet walking around with guard skills at 7+ feet. So you're always looking to have your lineup to have a lot of length and a lot of height. So he kind of checks that box. The one area that he really has to improve on is his three-point shot, especially at that NBA depth. There is a lot of concern about how consistent his three-point shot can be. However, there is a sign of optimism is because during his 3 years in college, every year his free throw percentage went up. And so your free throw percentage is usually an indication of how pure of a shooter you are, how you work in the gym, and as well as just being able to repeat the same form over and over, which, as we know, is so important when it comes to shooting. So that is a ray of sunshine for Hunter Sallis when it comes to his shots. Now, also, there's probably some questions about his shot selection as well. I would imagine that, when he gets to the NBA level and he's on the floor with great talents, such as Kyrie Irving or Anthony Davis, say, if he went to the Mavericks, right? You kind of will understand what his role is, and he knows, like, okay, I don't have to be that guy here. So, and most teams aren't going to look for him to have to carry them offensively. So I think that'll be smaller, a bit of a less of a concern for Hunter Sallis. But I would love to see him get a shot just because he cares about the game and he loves the game. And you could tell by the way he plays that basketball is the most important thing in his life. And to see him get an opportunity to play on the largest stage that this game has, it would be special not only for him and his family as well, but for all of us that have watched him develop over these last few years at Wake.
All right, Jalen Gilkey, going to ask about one more guy. I want to go back to Chapel Hill. Clearly the heart and soul of Tar Heels the last 5 years was point guard R.J. Davis. To me, it just seems like he's one of those guys that, you love in college and has a tough time having a long career in the NBA, but he can shoot. So what do you think his prospects are? And he's probably pretty clearly a day 2 guy, right?
Yeah, if that would be the best probably case scenario for R.J. Davis, would to be a day 2 guy. Again, going back to Carolina's play style, that older style, there's a couple guys he reminds me of, and not per se his game, but just his build. And these are names that went through Carolina that ended up going in the first round, whether it be Ty Lawson or Ray Felton, right? If he played in the 2010s or before, R.J. Davis would be clear-cut a clear-cut first-round pick in this year's NBA draft. But just because of the trajectory of the game, he being a smaller guard, ball-dominant guard, with not a lot of speed, that's also going to affect his draft stock. He's great at creating space and getting his shot off, but is he going to be able to get to the basket? Is he going to be able to really separate from great defenders like Lou Dort, who come in at 6'4", 240 pounds, built like a outside linebacker and move his feet like a cornerback? That's going to be those are tough matchups for R.J. Davis. And unfortunately, with that lack of speed and that lack of size, I just don't think R.J. Davis is going to be a guy that an NBA team calls his name over these next couple of days. It's just also, I think another thing with R.J. is the fact that they were so dependent on him. Carolina, they didn't even allow for him to really blossom as a true point guard because they needed him to score so much. He had to be so ball dominant and then get the shot off as well. So the game that he kind of replicates right now is kind of like a Luka, but he doesn't have all the skill set as Luka. He doesn't shoot it as well as Luka. He's not as big as Luka. He's not as strong as Luka. And honestly, he's only probably a little bit faster than Luka. Defensively, they're probably the same. Going to be a bit of a liability as well. But again, the Tar Heels put so much on R.J. Davis's shoulders offensively. I can't blame him for not being a lockdown defender just because of the fact that he had to save everything he had to get every bucket of every game for Carolina to be successful.
As we saw in his last game in Milwaukee against Ole Miss in the NCAA tournament. Jalen, before I let you go, have you project a little bit because recruiting is so big in that area. do the Tar Heels have anybody coming up that you know of that you could see a year or two from tonight being a lottery pick? And then we know Duke does, so who are some of the guys that they have that you could see in an NBA jersey as soon as 365 days from now?
You know, man, I'm going to be honest. At this point, I haven't really dove too deep into their upcoming recruiting class just because I just finished wrapping up with college baseball. So that's kind of my next objective as we get ready for the NFL season, college football. But I'm going to be honest, man, just because of the formula that Carolina has, I don't know if we're going to see another guy that's going to be able to be a first-round type of talent. Because, again, it's just not really what they've been producing. I can go back, I wrote something else down I thought was insane. Can you guess what year was the last time North Carolina had an NBA All-Star?
An NBA All-Star? 2016? I don't even have a name in mind.
It was 2007, 2008.
That's
Rasheed
crazy.
Wallace and Antoine Jameson.
Oh, my gosh. Antoine Jameson is a dad with a kid playing for Myers Park High School now. That's crazy.
I'm telling you, man. So they recruit a lot. They recruit a lot of great talent, a lot of guys that are successful at the college level, and it produces a lot of wins in the Ding Dome, and it's brought some national championships since that point as well, or at least trips to the Final Four. But when it comes to translating to the NBA level, I just don't think that's the most important thing in Carolina and Chapel Hill when it comes to guys they bring in. A guy they brought in who many thought had a lot of potential to hear his name called tonight in the first round was Ian Jackson. We saw how that worked out. It didn't. He ended up at the end of the year being kind of a rotational piece, 6th, 7th, 8th guy off the bench, and then he jumped in the portal, is going to St. John, where I'm sure his stock is going to rise next year under head coach Rick Pitino.
All right, Jalen Gilkey from the WFMY studios breaking down the Tar Heels, or lack thereof, Tar Heels flavor in this draft and what the future may hold. So Jalen, thank you very much for joining us, man. Enjoy the draft. We're going to bring it back here with my co-host, Jeremy Grandison. Jeremy, a couple guys, I'm thinking like the Boozer twins are guys we could maybe hear in the next draft. Charlotte's own Isaiah Evans, who stuck around for another year. I think that was a smart choice. You are of the ACC. So what are your generic thoughts on the lack of Carolina, man?
Carolina is known for having those veteran guys that you can immediately draft and have them give a lot of production, but also the chemistry and the fit and the mentality that a lot of NBA teams want. I think of guys like Harrison Barnes and guys like Tyler Hansborough. These guys are more polished. They're NBA ready when they're coming in. On the contrast, Duke players are more one-and-done-ish. They're more talent over experience. And I think that in a draft right now where people want to go younger and they want to go less on experience, that's maybe why we're not seeing as many Tar Heels right now.
All right, so Duke's clearly got the NBA pedigree at the moment. We are going to hear from Locked On Hornets co-host Doug Branson in a few minutes, so want to get everybody ready for that on the WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus live NBA draft special. We are carrying you all the way until the draft, through the Hornets pick and beyond, with analysis, reaction, live reports, and, of course, the thoughts of my man here, Jeremy Grandison. So, Jeremy, let's talk about the direction of this Charlotte Hornets team. We kind of covered it a little bit with Ace Bailey. Like, do you want to draft a guy when you're trying to evaluate this core that's going to be 3 to 5 years away? But we hear Jeff Peterson, and again, haven't heard from him in a few months, say, yeah, we want to compete for the playoffs next year, but we don't want to skip steps. So, like, which side is he more leaning to? He seems to be early on in this building process.
I think you have to find a good balance between patience and competitiveness, and it's hard to kind of toe that line and find the nexus point between those two. But when you look at the Eastern Conference, where it is right now, there's no excuse for not being a top 10 team. There's no excuse for not at least having a play-in game this year. When you look at the talent of Brandon Miller, Hornets fans, I don't want you guys to forget about what you have on the team. Brandon is a stud. This guy in most drafts is the number one pick, except Victor Wembanyama happened to be in his draft. He is a certified shooter in the NBA. He has the mentality that Charles Lee wants to see, and we see that even though he had some of the injuries this year, this guy wants to be out there. He wants to play, and he is one of the best building blocks in the NBA. Pairing that with LaMelo Ball, you have the foundation. There's no excuse not to go out there and try to win some games this season.
All right, let's talk about those first rounds from the past again. These ones aren't so nightmarish because we do want to discuss 2023 when Brandon Miller was drafted. You remember there was that big debate, Scoot or Brandon. Clearly the Hornets made the right choice there.
Let me just say the NBA knows what they're doing with the NBA draft and the lottery picks with the balls, where they go to commercial right before the fourth pick. Everyone's thinking, oh my gosh, is Victor Wembanyama going to be a Charlotte Hornet? And what happens? They get the number 2 pick, and a lot of people are saying, man, we missed out on a franchise changer. But in fact, it's the opposite. Brandon came in, had a stellar rookie season, and I think Hornets fans, if they could do it all over again, would be absolutely happy with the pick at number 2.
Yeah, and by the way, in about 15 minutes, we are potentially going to hear live from Brandon Miller as he answers questions and speaks with the media at the Hornets draft party there at Casey's Beaumont in South End. So look forward to that. I wonder what he's going to say, wonder what he knows, wonder what he probably doesn't know, right? But it would be interesting. What do you think if you were Brandon Miller and you were able to unfiltered say what you wanted the Hornets to do? Who would you want to be added to that starting lineup to benefit yourself, basically?
If I'm Brandon Miller, I think VJ Edgecombe is right there with him, where I see both of these guys having the same fierce mentality, the same intensity, where Brandon as a rookie, I remember this vividly, the Hornets didn't get back in transition on defense, and Brandon as a rookie had to yell, we need to get back. What are we doing? I think VJ is cut from the same cloth. That would be a great pairing.
Now, while we're talking about VJ Edgecombe, and listen, we've talked about guys we think will be drafted after VJ Edgecombe, but we haven't spoken about Edgecombe because, everybody seems to think he's going to Philadelphia. How sure are you that will happen?
I'm 98% sure. A lot of guys in the NBA love VJ, and I understand why. He gives you the defensive aggression you want. We see in the playoffs that guys like Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, these guys, Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, I think VJ can kind of be slotted into that category, that archetype of a defensive-minded guy who can also space the floor and make quick decisions on his feet. A lot of the NBA is about when your best player is getting doubled or shaded and the swing pass happens. Can that guy in the corner, we saw for the Hornets large part last season, it was Cody Martin, can that guy make a quick decision on his feet, get the ball back out, and keep the ball moving? I think VJ can do that, and a lot of NBA teams think the same.
All right, let's expand out for a minute to talk about, one of the big headlines I saw today. Then we'll zoom in to see how it could impact the Hornets, if at all. The Celtics are in the midst of this, money dump where they got rid of $200-something million in luxury tax money with the Kristaps Porzingis deal. And now we're seeing that maybe Jaylen Brown's time is up there. First of all, with the Jason Tatum situation, how would you feel about that? Would that surprise you if that happens? And second of all, the Hornets, Jeff Peterson, could they play facilitator in some sort of massive deal with Jaylen Brown tonight or in the next few weeks?
I think Jeff Peterson would love to be a facilitator. We've seen this happen before, and he's been able to stockpile second-round draft picks because of it. However, staying on that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum part, if you ask any GM in the NBA, what 2 archetypes of players or how do you want to build your team out? They'd all tell you, we want 2 elite wings that can go both ways. An example would be Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Back in the day, Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill. Of course, injuries kind of prohibited that from working out. The Celtics have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, 2 pillars of a franchise. I don't think Brad Stevens is looking to get off of Jaylen Brown so quickly.
Okay, moving back, is drafting Ace Bailey, putting him in that Hornets hat for a few minutes, and going back to get a shooting guard a possibility tonight? How possible do you think it is, and how far back would you be comfortable going?
I think it's a possibility. I saw the report today that maybe his camp told people he doesn't want to be a Hornet or a member of another team, and I think that's them trying to take the leverage away from the Hornets, because the Nets and these other teams that might want him know they would have to trade up if the Hornets are serious about trading him or drafting him, which is why if you're Jeff, these smoke screens, all these, as you said, not letting people in, not letting people know what he's doing might be the best play, because if you can actually convince a team that you're taking Ace, you might be able to benefit with some extra draft capital.
Should the Hornets leave tonight with a player that could compete for a starting spot this season? And I'm saying that because last year in the draft, when you had 6 of the top 12 be relatively unknown to, well, very unknown French teenagers in Tidjane Salaun, who was the Hornets' top pick last year, that was clearly a, we're thinking long-term, and B, we don't see the player in this draft that can help us right now.
They shouldn't be looking for a player to hopefully start. You need a player to be able to plug and play into this lineup and give you immediate production. This isn't a project pick for the Hornets. You did that last year. If you are truly trying to compete in the NBA this year, you want to get a guy that's NBA ready, that doesn't have an adjustment period, who can come in and seamlessly fit with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Miles, and the rest of the Hornets brass.
All right, let's get to Doug Branson joining us from the Locked On Hornets podcast. Hey, Doug, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm excited.
I woke you up.
We're almost
Sorry.
there. Oh, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm excited. We're ready to go.
All right, so, so many different avenues the Hornets could take tonight. First of all, what have you made of Jeff Peterson's kind of silence in the pre-draft process? And it's not just this year, it's last year too.
That seems to be their whole strategy, is let's keep everything in-house. Let's not let anything leak. Let's not have any distractions heading into draft night. And it didn't really result in any kind of trade-up scenario last season. I think they were interested in trading up. I don't think it ever materialized. And ultimately, they ended up drafting a player that they really wanted to draft, and not a lot of people knew that they were even working out. And so I think, this is all a game of keeping different teams away from the players that you covet. And if you're going to do that, then keeping that information to yourself is a valuable thing.
All right, we'll start with the obligatory Ace Bailey questions. It's clearly a pivot point at 3, and then potentially again with Charlotte at 4, and a polarizing draft pick. What do you make of Ace Bailey's pre-draft process, what he could be in the NBA, and could he be that with the Charlotte Hornets?
I think his pre-draft process was probably ill-advised, not working out for maybe one team, maybe 0 teams. The reporting on that has been a little bit mixed, but not making himself available, I think, was ultimately a mistake. I think you're always going to have some positioning by these prospects. If they view themselves as a top 3 pick, then they might not work out for the 4th team or the 5th team because they want to position themselves as such. But I think for Ace Bailey, there were a lot of questions about his game coming out of Rutgers, the season that they had, the season that he had. And I think he could have done himself some favors answering a few of those questions. And different organizations operate in different ways. Some of them want to be wanted. And so if you don't want those organizations by going and doing workouts, even if they feel perfunctory in some way, that can be a mistake as well. But honestly, I think the concern for Ace Bailey is that he wants to be a star. He's been very explicit about that, and he wants to be a star right now. And how does that work with the Charlotte Hornets, who already have someone in LaMelo Ball that was one of the leaders in the NBA last year in usage percentage, how much he had the ball in his hands, and they have a player in Brandon Miller that his game maps very closely to Ace Bailey. So there's a fit question. And then I would also say, if you dig into some of the advanced stats on Ace Bailey's pass percentages, on his assist percentages, they're very low. So low that you really can't find a complimentary star player in the NBA that even in 1 year of college had that low of an assist percentage that really didn't show off any playmaking. So either he's hiding it completely, did play with Dylan Harper, a good playmaker in his own right, but either he's hiding it completely or there are some serious questions about his ability to make a leap into star land.
All right, Doug Branson joining us from Locked On Hornets. We'll have Walker Mail on at about 9:15 tonight after the Hornets have made their selection. Walker, assuming it goes, kind of chalky in the first 3 with Flagg and Harper and Edgecombe, if it's Bailey and, you're considering picking him and trading him or just getting your guy, do you just get your guy there?
I think you get your guy. I think you particularly if you're a team in Charlotte that is trying to build a culture. if you're trying to prioritize playing on both ends of the floor, if you're trying to prioritize doing all of the little things, then I think you would want to do that in all aspects of your player acquisition: draft, free agency, trade. Find those players. The evidence that I have of this front office is that they have done that. They've gone out and went to other people's G League teams and found players like Moussa Diabate and made trades for guys like Josh Okogie that fit that particular mold, and they feel like Tidjane Salaun, same thing. High character guy, wants to work, wants to get better. I think you find that guy, whether it fits along with everyone's big board or not, whether you think that what that player's ceiling is or not. I mean, that's a difficult thing at the fourth pick. But I think particularly in this draft, when you have a lot of wing prospects that do fit nicely within your LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller context, I think it's a little bit easier to swallow not taking the highest ceiling player in that position.
What would be the deal that you would take to stay within the top 10, still get a shooting guard you like, but move back?
I think that they should prioritize looking for a veteran that can help them come off the bench and continue to improve the things that they need to improve, which are either your ability to play defense on the wing, or possibly address a situation that has gotten awkward with your big man and Mark Williams, or you find someone like Corey Kispert in Washington that can just light it up from beyond the arc, because the Hornets had a difficult time doing that, or really any efficient scorer that doesn't need the ball in their hands a lot. The players that had the ball in their hands a lot, Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, and Brandon Miller, were not very efficient last season. A lot of reasons for that, a lot of context. They're going to get better, but you also need to add efficient scoring, guys that can get downhill, get to the line, complement LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, who did not want to operate much at the rim, help Miles Bridges out so that he's not having to drive the basketball 1,000 times a game. There are a lot of players that fit that mold, and I think they can find that in a potential trade-back scenario.
Doug, are you afraid of having tears for fears tonight? We saw Jeremiah Fear's name pop up, a 6'2", 6'3" point guard who needs the ball a lot at 4. What did you make of, I don't want to call them reports, but his name even popping up with the Hornets, associated with the Hornets of 4?
I do have tears for fears. I do have fears of fears, because I think it's a player, again, at a position, if you are committed to LaMelo Ball, I think that would be an awkward fit. I don't think that Fears is a player that can come in and contribute a lot immediately. I think he's got a lot of building to do on his body and his game, and I just don't love that fit for Charlotte, particularly if they want to compete this season. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. That would feel more project picky to me, particularly again if you're playing him at a position that you already have someone that's going to eat big minutes and have the ball in his hands a lot. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
All right, so, whether it's trade back or picking at 4 and Edgecombe is not available and you don't go Bailey, Trey Johnson, Con Knipple, what appeals to you about both of those guys, and who would you kind of, in rank order, put first?
Oh, man, it's so tough because I love both of these guys. Trey Johnson provides you with a creativity offensively, an ability to get his own shot that does have some signals of like, okay, this player could be a future multi-time all-star, could be someone that and that would fit with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, and you could take all 3 of those all-star potential players into a playoff future, and as someone that's going to immediately help your outside shooting, take some of the defensive pressure off of LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. But the concern with Trey Johnson is that he didn't get downhill very much in his year at Texas. And again, you're putting him alongside LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, who also didn't like to get downhill. Can he play physically enough to not come off your bench? And then defensively, I think the one thing defensively with him, well, there's 2 things. One, he needs to build his body. And the other one is that when possessions went long at Texas, he sort of disengaged a little bit on those possessions. So can he, and look, that's college where you don't even need to be as engaged. At the professional level, I mean, the game completely changes defensively. You have to be engaged at all times. Will he respond to that? Will he be able to adjust to what Charles Lee demands defensively of this team? And then with Knipple, a lot of people are going to see it as a safe pick, but I see it as a guy who has a lot of tools. he's going to come in and immediately help your shooting. I think he has an immense feel for the game. I think he's got playmaking potential all over the place. And defensively, look, is he going to be the most versatile defender, the guy that's going to switch everything, the guy that we saw for Indiana and for Oklahoma City in the finals? Maybe not. Certainly not initially. Because, you can look at some of the physical testing and go, okay, this guy's probably not going to switch, 1 through 4 defensively. But at the same time, I think he stays engaged enough. I think he's got an IQ enough to hang defensively and contribute an immense amount offensively. So I would put Konkanippel slightly over Trey Johnson, particularly for a team, I think, in the Hornets that are going to want to compete sooner rather than later.
Will you be disappointed if and when you see VJ Edgecombe come off the board at 3? And is he worth it all exploring a trade up 1 spot?
I would be immensely disappointed because I think VJ Edgecombe is somebody that can immediately come in and transform a Hornets defense that was 24th in points per possession allowed, according to Cleaning the Glass. He's a perfect fit. And I think he's got so much room to grow as a shooter and potential playmaker. I do think there's star potential with VJ Edgecombe, and his work ethic, and I think most importantly the seriousness that he showed in interviews with the media and reports of his interviews with teams. Like, to me, he just fits what Charles Lee and Jeff Peterson have been talking about since they landed in Charlotte. I think VJ Edgecombe would be just the ideal pick for Charlotte, outside, of course, of Dylan Harper. And yes, absolutely, I think it would be worth exploring moving up 1 spot. I just don't think that Philadelphia would be very interested in that because I think they are looking for some of those similar things.
All right, Doug, before we let you go, and for folks watching, I think we're going to hear from Hornets guard Brandon Miller very shortly, small forward Brandon Miller very shortly, on maybe what he thinks or knows. I don't know. Maybe he's going to give everything away, Doug. I'm not sure. He's at the draft party.
Yeah, well, it would be interesting to hear what he says because, if you think back to when Brandon Miller was drafted, it felt like, I don't want to say that LaMelo Ball was consulted, but he certainly was excited to have Brandon Miller as a part of the team. And we don't know how he felt about Scoot Henderson, but we know how he felt about Brandon Miller, and he was excited. So one has to wonder, of all of these wings that could potentially play beside Brandon Miller, how much will the Hornets prioritize someone that they think Brandon Miller thinks he can play with?
All right, Doug Branson from Locked On Hornets. Well said and well lit as always, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We're gonna send me some links for those lights. Those are amazing. All right, back here in the WCNC Live Impact Studio with Jeremy Grandison. Jeremy, hold on 1 minute because I believe we're about to hear from Hornets 2023 top pick Brandon Miller on tonight's draft.
I think just a lot of nerves, exciting moment with my family, of course. They've been through everything with me, so just having them on side of me, just supporting my dreams and living them out at that moment, I think it's just a blessing.
Earlier, someone asked, what was the advice that you give to the new guys coming in? You said be yourself. Is that advice that you got as well, or is that something that you learned along the way?
Just be yourself and be confident. Always listen to your vets. They're probably more than likely going to know more than you. Coming in the league as a young player. So just use your resources and just get better off of them.
Brandon, what's the mentality of the top 4 picks? Like the nerves, the emotions. What is that?
I know we're going to get somebody good. Willing to work hard every day and just put in the work just to make everybody around him better. Everybody on the team is going to do a great job of welcoming him and just getting to know him better and just knowing what's his strengths and weaknesses, so it can be a better bond on the court.
So 2 years ago, when you were a top 4 pick, like kind of the question earlier, what were your emotions like? Your nerves like?
Honestly, I didn't know. It's you don't really know what team you're getting selected to on draft night until you get the call. So just living in the moment with my family. Always being there with a smile on our faces. Whatever pick we go. And I know I was blessed to be you know, the number 2 pick. So, you know, my dreams came true, and just living with my family, I think that's the best thing I could have did that night.
Were you on social media all night?
No. I started to click on it, and then it just got too busy. I'm like, I'll wait till a couple weeks or something.
Yeah. So now that you are on the team, what is it like on this side of draft night, where you're not where those kind of nerves are away?
It's something. It's definitely new. You know, it's something new. Never experienced. You know, well, I've experienced it, but you know, just having a season like that, in the position that I'm in now, I think I'm, you know, more confident in, you know, going in this season, and just, you know, having a young player like this is, you know, that's going to come in and work hard. It excites me.
Kind of briefly touched on it. There is so much talent, it seems like, on this team, and you're going to add significant talent. How exciting is that for the group that maybe this is the missing piece to kind of propel you guys where you really want to get to?
Definitely excited, you know, just to, you know, help us out, you know, on and off the court. Just, you know, of course, like I said, a young player, you know, coming in with the mindset of just working hard every day, and just listening to, you know, everybody, of course, coaches, players, staffs, everybody, and just, you know, like I've said, using their resources to advantage, and just get better with that.
What do you remember most about that night? When you got drafted, what do you remember most?
A lot of smiles. You know, I remember my phone just, you know, blowing up. You know, I try not to, you know, get caught into the phone and social media. I was just kind of, you know, living in the moment with my family, just, you know, excited, and just willing to, you know, start a new journey with a new team, and, you know, excited to see the new city of Charlotte.
Anything you're hoping for? Anybody you're hoping for?
A winner. I need somebody that's a winner who's gonna, you know, dive on the floor, make all the winning plays, you know, and just be a great teammate, of course. And, you know, always coming in with the mindset of working hard and making his teammate better. And it just, you know, really that winning mindset that just, you know, that we want, you know, we want to build around in this Hornets organization. I think my message, be ready tomorrow, because, you know, you got an early flight tomorrow, just to come in and, you know, meet everybody. But, you know, I think also pick back off the, you know, the mindset. I think just coming in as a young player, you know, your mind could be racing at 100 miles an hour. So I think just, you know, stay calm and be yourself, and, you know, just use your resources.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, again, that was the Hornets' Brandon Miller speaking from the Charlotte Hornets official fan watch party tonight for the draft in South End at Casey's at Beaumont. We're going to see their live reaction in just a few minutes as the draft is about to get underway from Brooklyn, New York. Back here with me, Nick Carboni, on the WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus NBA Draft Special is my special guest, Jeremy Grandison. Now, Jeremy, this team won 19 games last year, and I was there for a lot of the beginning of it, but as you know, at the end, every couple of weeks I'd poke my head in. How we doing? You were there every night. So when you hear Brandon Miller say his message to the next draft pick is to be ready tomorrow, and that when asked what he wants, a winner. You spoke to his mentality before. How important is it going to be for the Hornets to pair that up with somebody of a similar mindset?
Absolutely. What we see from Charles Lee is always talking about vitamin water and taking your daily vitamins and your supplements, and Charles Lee can also have that aggression. I know sometimes you see him smiling a lot, but he's cut from that same cloth as Brandon. They want to win. They want to win now. They want to put a product of basketball on the court for fans in Spectrum Center to really enjoy. But that all starts with guys who come in the building ready from day one and are ready to compete. I think with Brandon Miller, he's saying, hey, we're going to challenge you early on, and we don't want you to wilt under that pressure. We want you to welcome it and face it head on.
All right, so let's take another look at the top 10 because it's a miracle, 8:03 p.m., and the top 10 is still intact. There was a little swap of some second-round picks between the Pacers and the Spurs, but nothing to shake up the first-round order. So when you look at this first round as it pertains to the Hornets at 4, who do you think would want to come up to 4, and presumably for Ace Bailey?
My first two teams I think of are Brooklyn, of course. Brooklyn is sitting at number 8 in the draft right now, and then Chicago sitting at number 12. These are two teams that would allow Ace Bailey to have the shot diet and shot profile that he so much desires, but also they're not looking to win now. Chicago is saying, you know what? We had to endure DeRozan, Levine, Vucevic for a while. We were a play-in team, a perpetual play-in team for how many years, and now we want to tear it down, build it up, and Ace allows them to do that.
All right, so who would you want to get? Like, what would the package be that Jeremy Grandison, president of basketball operations, would be willing to move back, and how far, and then who do you get after that?
I have 3 areas of need for the Hornets. The biggest area is a veteran that can give you production early. I think Miles Bridges fits that category. However, I like a better shooter than Miles in that position. Going right into your question, I think if you can somehow get Cam Johnson from the Brooklyn Nets, if you trade back, allow them to get their guy in Ace Bailey, I think that's a home run for the Hornets. The last time they played Cam, not the last time, the first time they played last season, the Hornets were up 20-plus points. November 19th, yep. I'm watching that game. I'm saying, wow, they are really turning a corner. And then Cam Johnson goes for 34, 5, and 4, plus 18, 11 of 20 from the field, 6 of 12 from 3. This guy can come in, immediately space the floor, has a high IQ, and like Brandon Miller said, that guy's a winner.
Do you think that Jeff Peterson is eyeing trading any of his own players in the next 2 nights or in the next few weeks, and how much of that is based on who they wind up with in the first round?
I think everything is on the table, but something Jeff said in the exit interviews really caught my eye, where he said we didn't have time to evaluate the players how we wanted to due to the injury bug of this season. They wanted to be able to see Trey Mann on the court, to see Miles and see Mark and see the synergy and chemistry these guys have. Because there was a lack of that, I think it's harder for Jeff to know where he wants to go. However, if there's any time, it's during the draft. And again, this is the NBA playoffs for the Hornets front office and GM.
All right, Jeremy, the Dallas Mavericks are on the clock. Should we get the breaking news animation ready, Jeb? Because, what are they going to do? Obviously, Cooper Flagg from Duke, youngest player in this draft, 18 years old, reclassified out of high school to join Duke early. National Player of the Year, National Freshman of the Year, led a Final Four run, came up short in that Final Four. We all know he's going to be. We all think he's going to be a very good NBA player. How good do you think Cooper Flagg can be in his career?
In the first hour, thank you, Nick. I wanted to get acclimated to the situation. You gave me some good assists. I got some layups, got to the free throw line. I feel like I'm in rhythm now. So here we go. Cooper Flagg will be the most fortunate rookie since Jason Tatum in 2017. Tatum, as a rookie, went on the Celtics, immediately made the Eastern Conference Finals. Same year, Donovan Mitchell, 2017, as a rookie, is a finalist for Rookie of the Year and then has a first-round playoff win. I think Cooper Flagg immediately sliding in to that Dallas lineup. I know Kyrie Irving is still nursing that ACL injury, but a back line of Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford will alleviate so much pressure from Cooper Flagg, where he will be able to do what he needs to, roam as a free safety on defense, and create a ton of havoc. I think Cooper is going to stun people, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was playing on opening day, Christmas, and the NBA playoffs in his first season.
That's what I was wondering. Is Cooper Flagg helping the Mavericks get back to the NBA Finals after they took all that flack in January for sending Luka Doncic, their longtime and beloved star, packing to the Lakers? So this is a playoff team and a deep playoff team?
Deep's tough because you look.
We didn't think they were that year. And look where they got.
Deep is tough because the West is so, as you just said, deep. The thing about Cooper Flagg, though, is he gives you all the intangibles plus the production. He can immediately guard the best power forwards in the NBA, whether that's Pascal Siakam or Jason Tatum or guys like Paul George. He can be that guy from day one while also giving you 15 a night. And I think for him, that's perfect with a great destination in Dallas.
Being very good is one thing. Being great is another thing. Making all-star teams is another thing. What's the potential for Cooper Flagg in terms of a long-term legacy in this league? And are we jumping the gun a little bit, calling him the next LeBron James or the next greatest thing in the NBA?
I think Jason Tatum is a great example, where Tatum gets a lot of flack sometimes because he's on a great team. But with Cooper Flagg, this is what NBA fans want to see. the natural progression for guys like this who are high-end draft picks, you usually start out in NBA purgatory. You think of Devin Booker, you think of Victor Wembanyama, you think of Cade Cunningham, where the natural progression for them was bad team, bad team, bad team, turn the corner, playoffs. In Cooper's case, you are immediately being thrust into a team that has playoff aspirations, expectations, and I think that's what's best for his career right now.
All right, the pick is in. Adam Silver's about to go to the podium and announce Cooper Flagg as the top pick in the 2025 draft to the Dallas Mavericks. We did get a chance, WFMY did, to catch up with ESPN's Jay Billis, former Dookie himself, a Charlotte resident himself, and this is some of what he had to say about Cooper Flagg.
I happen to think he's the best freshman player that Duke's ever had. That might not mean he's the most talented. Grant Hill and Kyrie Irving were incredibly talented players when they came out of Duke. Grant came out as a senior, and Kyrie left after his freshman year after being injured for most of the season. But no other freshman produced as an 18-year-old the way Cooper Flagg did across the board, not only in success of the team, but in individual success. As an 18-year-old, to be as complete a player as he is right now, and as competitive as he is as an 8-year-old or 18-year-old, is really hard to fathom. When you think back to what you were like as an 18-year-old, or what he accomplished at 18 is really staggering, and I think it shows the trajectory he has as a pro.
Jay Billis there from ESPN, a former Duke Blue Devil, talking about Cooper Flagg. So Cooper Flagg is about to be a Dallas Maverick officially, and then it's number 2. And I don't think there's much mystery about who the Spurs are taking and Dylan Harper. A lot of people surmised as soon as the lottery order was set that the Spurs would trade that pick because they have De'Aaron Fox, because they have Stephon Castle, the reigning NBA Rookie of the Year. Haven't heard anything about the Spurs wanting to trade the pick. So how does this all work in San Antonio in your mind?
If San Antonio knew they would luck into the number 2 pick, I don't think they would have gone and gotten De'Aaron Fox. Because of that, though, you actually kind of have an embarrassment of riches in the backcourt where you have a lot of options. I think Dylan Harper is going to be the direction they want to go. However, like I said, you want to have Victor Wembanyama in playoff scenarios early. You want a guy like Dylan Harper to be able to learn off of a veteran like De'Aaron Fox. I would keep them all, and again, like I said in the earlier part, they're all defensive players where you're not discounting one of them on defense by putting one in and taking the other out. I think they fit the same scheme that Victor Wembanyama thrives in, and for that reason, the Spurs are okay.
All right, Dylan Harper, we got some thoughts on him from a couple of draft analysts. I think we've got Paul Biancardi. Cooper Flagg is a Dallas Maverick now, his family with him. Got a chance to catch up with them at the Final Four. They were also here for the ACC tournament as well, and he had the unfortunate injury. Duke goes on to win the ACC tournament without him, with Con Knipple, who we will discuss much further in a few moments here on the WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus Draft Special. So Cooper Flagg goes number 1 of the Dallas Mavericks, a foregone conclusion. Can we play the game of what it would have been like in Charlotte? Like, what would getting Cooper Flagg and then rights to this number 1 pick have done for the Charlotte Hornets, and how would they have operated with their roster if they got him? Let's just play that game for one moment, and then we'll be done with it.
If we play that game, Tidjane Salaun, it's tough where you would see him fitting into this team, because I think Cooper Flagg does what Tidjane does on a much higher level. He can come in and, of course, take those defensive assignments. For me, I think Miles isn't a good enough shooter to be a 3, but he's too small to be a 4. And when you see him play defense on guys like Jason Tatum and Pascal, he's giving up some size. But when you have a guy like Cooper, you immediately have a stopgap on defense, a guy who can anchor them, and it would have changed Charles Lee's defense and also alleviated pressure from Melo and Brandon Miller.
All right, we got your thoughts on Dylan Harper, who is widely expected to be the next pick at number 2 to the Spurs. I mean, first 2 picks and maybe the first 3 are likely going to be Flagg, Harper, and Edgecombe. We're just guiding you through at this point. And then that big pivot point happens at 3 if the Sixers do take Edgecombe, and then the pivot point really shifts to Charlotte after that. I do want to hear from one of our analysts. This is Paul Biancardi. from ESPN, who will join the show actually tonight at 9 o'clock live to react to the Hornets pick and the rest of the draft. This is what Paul Biancardi, longtime coach, longtime analyst, responsible for ESPN's top 100 high school player listing every single year. Here's what he told me about Dylan Harper as an NBA prospect.
He's the best overall basketball player after Cooper Flagg. And Cooper Flagg has productivity and potential. Same goes for Dylan Harper. When he was in high school, he was the #1 player at one time in the class of 2025. So that shows you his star ability. I called him a bigger, stronger Jalen Brunson, left-handed, great frame, could take contact. He can carry defenders into the lane. He is really good, Nick, at driving kick and ball screen offense. Capable three-point shooter, excellent passer, plays with his head up, his eyes are wide open, looking to make the next correct play. Really good competitor, needs to grow in the game defensively. But I'll tell you this, at 17 years old, USA Basketball put him on the 19 and under team. The reason they did it, his maturity level, his decision-making, and his work habits. And let's not forget his dad, Ron Harper, 5-time NBA champ. I mean, this guy was born to be an NBA player.
An NBA player. Dylan Harper about to be an NBA player. The pick for San Antonio is in. That is very likely what will happen. And then we get to 3 with Philadelphia. So, Jeremy, I believe you said 90% that VJ Edgecombe will be a 76er. I heard that he was nervous for his draft workout as we look at the nervous Hornets fans in South End right now awaiting their pick in just a few minutes. That to me was a good sign. I think that's why people like VJ Edgecombe. He cares. It was a job interview. I care about getting this job. I care about making a good impression. Unfortunately we have to play this game now. What happens when the Charlotte Hornets meet VJ Edgecombe 4 times a year, and how do they combat what he does well?
That's tough because, it'd be different if the Charlotte Hornets skipped over VJ and then he had this kind of vendetta against them, kind of like Jalen Walker, Falcons, talking Nalo McMillan. But I think with this one, he just wants to kill everyone in sight. He doesn't care what team's ahead of him. He doesn't care who you put ahead of him. I think Brandon Miller's the same, where Paul George was his mentor, but he's saying between the lines, I want to take your throat out. And I think VJ, from the same cloth, just says, you know what? I have no ill intent to anyone. I just want to make sure I'm the best player I can be.
Yeah, after the first 2 teams go from the West, then it's 2 Eastern Conference teams in Philadelphia and Charlotte. Just overall, given the Tatum situation and what the Celtics are doing, which is, a quarter of a tear down at least, given Tyrese Halliburton's injury, and given how wide open it has been the past couple of years in general, where could the Hornets, with the right pick, and of course with health and a new training staff, what would be the ceiling for the Hornets this year, I guess? And we got to wait till the pick comes in and all of that, but if they make the right pick, what's the ceiling?
The ceiling for the Hornets is the 7 seed. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, the Magic, the Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics will still be a playoff team next year, even though they've let some guys go. Then you have the Indiana Pacers I won't put in there. Off the top of my head, I have 4 or 5 teams that are just going to be better and more consistent than the Hornets. However, if you can slide into that 7-8 spot, that means beating out in Atlanta, beating out of Toronto, beating out of Chicago. It allows you to be able to still have that patience, but also that competitiveness that Jeff has been talking so much about.
And Atlanta making a move yesterday, and Philadelphia about to get VJ Edgecombe. When you kind of look further into the division, we'll see if Washington ends up with Ace Bailey. It hasn't looked on paper like the toughest division to compete in every year, but it has been so for the Hornets. Again, with the right pick and health, could they be competitive when they zoom in on that division?
It's tough to say this when they went 0-4 against the Wizards last year. But again, new season, 0-0 record. Everyone's healthy going in, hopefully. I think we will see. I'll take the optimistic view. I think they have the talent to match up with everybody. The problem is the talent usually isn't on the floor, and when it is, you need to have a defensive stopgap, which is why I think that should be a big target for them in the draft.
All right. Dylan Harper is going to the San Antonio Spurs, his college teammate from Rutgers. Shout out Rutgers. What a draft for Rutgers, regardless of what happens. His Rutgers teammate Ace Bailey cheering him on up there in Brooklyn. So Dylan Harper is a Spur, and now comes the swing point, Philadelphia. But we think it is less so now that it is likely VJ Edgecombe. So let's just start to play this game. Ace Bailey's going to be on the board. Trey Johnson's going to be on the board. Con Knippel is going to be on the board. What do you think the Hornets are going to do?
I think they're going Trey Johnson. I don't think they're going Ace Bailey. Don't get greedy, Jeff. If you can hear me, don't be greedy. Of course, it'd be ideal to trade down, trade back, but I don't think that Ace Bailey has given his camp every indication we don't want to be in Charlotte. Adhere to that. Take your guy. Don't get sexy. Get Trey Johnson, get Con Knippel, and move off.
But what, man, you don't have to. You can draft him, but he's not coming here. What's wrong with putting him in the hat for a few minutes and seeing what you can get? Is it too risky? Is that what you're saying?
If you do that, there's a chance of having the Shea hat situation again. And for the Hornets, I just think that
optics of it.
What we just heard from Brandon Miller, too, they want a winner. As good as Rutgers has 2 guys in the top 10, they didn't make the NCAA tournament. Does that go in hand with what Brandon Miller's been saying in winter? I don't know if it does.
All right. I do want to hear a little bit more about VJ Edgecombe, and then we'll move off of that because he is likely about to be the Philadelphia 76ers pick in about 5 minutes, a pick they will highly unlikely trade once he is wearing their hat. So I think we've got Terrence Oglesby from FanDuel Sports Network as producer Jeb diligently looks through all the files to find Terrence on VJ. And like everybody else we've talked to, including Jeremy Grandison, T.O. loves this kid.
One of the best direct line athletes that the NBA will have next year. That's how good of an athlete he is. Played with the Bahamian national team. Was forced to play a role with some NBA guys. DeAndre Ayton was on that team. Eric Gordon. There were a couple of others. So understands that, hey, I can slide in and play a role. I don't have to be the guy. And he has all those tools and intangibles to be able to be that guy. He's an elite defender. He does some things on the defensive end of the floor that normal humans have no business even being in the play for. So that quickness and that burst help him get in the passing lanes, help him create some fast break opportunities, turning defense into offense. But then, there's a couple of things that as I watch VJ play, it kind of stuck out. I'm not sure he changes direction as well as he is a straight ahead guy. He could be a dunk contest guy next year. That's the kind of athlete he is. But there were times during Big 12 play this season where if he had to change directions or a guy beat him to a spot, he really tried to put his shoulder down and bully the guy to the rim. You got to be able to change directions at the NBA level because guys don't just budge like that. So a little bit of a cause for concern, not a huge one, but you look at if he's drafted at 4, how he could play immediately and be slotted in immediately. Yeah. You move Brandon to the 3, and then all of a sudden, you look at the defensive potential, given that everybody's healthy, it changes things.
Is it hyperbolic to say that VJ Edgecombe could be the best defender on the Hornets at some point in his rookie season? Or is there too much to learn about team defense, about what Charles Lee wants to do? And all right, again, Terrence Oglesby speaking to us about VJ Edgecombe. Back when we thought the Hornets had a shot at him, as you look at the live shot of the Hornets draft party at Casey's Beaumont in South End there on North Tryon, I don't think a lot of folks in there, Jeremy, have much faith that VJ Edgecombe isn't going to be a 76er in 2 minutes. While we're watching these fans, you could just feel the anxiety already, and it's not even Charlotte's pick. Given the context, the history, all the layers to it, what are Hornets fans feeling tonight?
Hornets fans are feeling, like we said in the open, we don't want another Donovan Mitchell situation or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander situation. Can we get our guy? Can we have a real core with guys who can play on the court consistently, that can be durable, and can also be productive? Because if you can hit on this pick with Brandon and LaMelo Ball, you have a real future in the Eastern Conference.
All right, so the 76ers about 90 seconds away from making their pick, which we believe will be VJ Edgecombe. All right, Ace Bailey. He's, this is now the pivot point in Charlotte, and this is now the best prospect on the board, according to many, with Edgecombe presumably gone. We've talked to folks like Paul Biancardi who say, if he's there at 4, you got to take him. I would say we talked to more people that have your thinking on this, Jeremy. That is, there's too much there. he's not going to be ready when this team in particular needs him to be. Let's hear from Locked On Hornets co-host Walker Mail, who will also be on with us live at 9:15, breaking down the Hornets pick, on what he thinks of Ace Bailey as a prospect.
I like somebody at 6'8" that can get to the rim quite a bit, and he just didn't in college. He settled. So is it purposeful as to why he's shooting a lot of those mid-range jumpers? Or is he settling because he can't get to the rim because of a lack of handle, because he's not strong enough, because smaller defenders get up under his hip and don't allow him to get to the spots that he truly wants to go to? I think, especially with the lack of feel passing-wise, I think one thing that I've missed out on when I've missed on prospects is a feel. I've either undervalued it or overvalued athleticism with other guys. And Ace Bailey, the assist to turnover percentage, even with that Rutgers offense calling for him to score more, the assist to turnover percentage is so bad. He just doesn't make other players better, like I think these other guys have of an opportunity to do. And the three-point shot isn't there. I just have too many questions. Like, I see the talent. If they take him, I'd be interested to see how it works. But there are too many other guys here that I'd rather take, like Trey Johnson, like VJ Edgecombe, like Con Knipple, over Ace Bailey, where I'm probably just out on the Ace business here in Charlotte.
Right.
Is it worth...
All right, Walker is out of the Ace business. Paul Biancardi was very much in the Ace business. Would love to hear from Paul, who said if he's there at 4, you got to take him.
As talented as anybody in this draft, maybe more talented just in terms of pure upside than Cooper Flagg. Okay, but he doesn't have some of the intangibles just yet that some of the other players in the top half of the draft have. And I don't know why people say he's sliding, because when you look at the drafts from the past, he was projected as maybe, coming into this year, maybe number 2, number 3. We're talking about now, 5, maybe 6. I don't know if that's a slide or just a compliment to some of the other guys who've made some progression over the last couple of months. Ace Bailey, he's a 6'7", we found out at the Combine, measured, a shot maker, and that's what he does best. He's a great athlete, second best athlete in the draft, in my opinion, to VJ Edgecombe. And he can score from anywhere on the floor. He's got great versatility and athleticism. He's today's modern small forward type. Why he's moving down a little bit, I'm not quite sure. His talent is undeniable. And, he has to pick up on some of the intangibles. I wouldn't say Ace Bailey is an everyday player just yet. Like Cooper Flagg, he's an everyday guy. Ace Bailey needs to become an everyday guy. But he is uber talented, and he'll be somewhere in the top 5 in this draft.
All right. Paul Biancardi discussing Rutgers prospect Ace Bailey, who the Hornets, Jeremy, will now have the option to select at number 4. As we mentioned, and we thought VJ Edgecombe is going to be a Philadelphia 76er. That pick in now in Brooklyn. The Hornets are on the clock. So we take you live again to Casey by Beaumont on North Tryon Street in South End, where Hornets fans eagerly, anxiously, nervously, we'll see about joyously in about 5 minutes, are awaiting this pick. So you have told me multiple times tonight you think Jeff Peterson just goes for his guy and gets Trey Johnson. Why Trey Johnson right now?
I think Trey Johnson gives the Hornets a lot of what they need. He checks a lot of the boxes. A great shot creator, a great playmaker. He has a great handle with the ball. And, of course, you have guys like that in Trey Mann, but Trey Johnson is 6'6". He's a real shooting guard. He gives you size. And I get it, some defensive deficiencies. However, what we've seen in the playoffs is that effort matters. You just need guys who care. Andrew Nembhard, undersized shooting guard, undersized backcourt player, but he was giving Shea fits for the entire finals because he cared. He sat down, he got in a good defensive position, and he slid his feet. So even though some of these guys might not have the measurables, if they can give the mentality that we've seen Brandon Miller really want from them, we can see them still fit in this lineup.
So you prefer Trey Johnson. Do you think the Hornets would go Knipple over Johnson? And they've been mocked a lot to taking Duke's Con Knipple. Would it be a mistake? Do you see similarity? Do you see them at a similar level, or do you put Trey Johnson in a tier above Con?
I put Trey in a tier above just because of his shot creation ability. I think Con Knipple, as we saw in the ACC tournament, when he catches the ball and has an open look, more often than not, the shot's going in, and more often than not, it's not touching the rim. However, when you need him to get a bucket for you when the play breaks down, I don't think he has that in his arsenal whereas I do think Trey Johnson does.
Would you be drafting for fit in 2025-26 or fit in 27-28?
Man, I would have been drafting for fit if VJ Edgecombe was still on the board. But now that we've gotten past that, I do think at this point, get the best player. And even though I say that, I don't think Ace fits that bill. I think either Trey or Con are still the best choice for the Hornets.
So do you think the phones are ringing off the hook at Fifth Third Bank in Uptown, where the Hornets are temporarily holed up with Spectrum Center undergoing renovations? Or do you think Jeff Peterson has already fielded those calls, denied those calls, or taken those calls, or accepted a deal?
I think right now we are seeing them on the phone with someone. I think they're trying to get as much as they can from that team, and if they can't get the package that they want, then they'll go ahead and have the pick that they originally intended. But for right now, I do think, hey, all options are open until that clock hits 0, and for that reason, I think Jeff, Charles, and the Hornets front office are still seeing what they can get possibly with that number 4 pick.
So all options are on the table. How many options? Do you think Jeremiah Fears is on the table at 4? Do you think Amuri Boyles is on the table at 4, or is that too much of a reach?
I think Jeremiah Fears is too much of a reach. A 6'2" guard doesn't really go hand in hand with LaMelo Ball. I think Trey's a better fit because he gives you the extra 4 inches in size, can actually slide into that shooting guard spot. And then with Boyles, the shooting is a big part. It's a big factor for me, where what we see in the playoffs is that spacing matters. If you go watch the NBA Finals 10 years ago, 15 years ago in 2010, it's a completely different league because of spacing. I think teams have to prioritize shooting, and for that reason, I don't have Boyles on my list.
All right, Charlotte Hornets about 90 seconds themselves away from putting somebody in a Hornets hat. Whether that somebody is here in October or not, we shall see. But yeah, this is a big swing. This is really the first part of this draft. I think, obviously here in Charlotte and Greensboro, we've been eyeing, but now everybody's watching to see what Charlotte does, right? I mean, this is kind of the point in this draft we all pointed to and said this is where it could take off in either direction.
And what's so interesting about this, like you said, Nick, is Cooper goes 1, Dylan goes 2, VJ goes 3. Those are the consensus top 3 picks. Even if they don't pan out, you can at least say, hey, they were the best option. The Hornets at 4 is where it gets murky. This is where a lot of criticism or praise can come based on who is taken and how they produce in their rookie season.
Do you think there's any chance that there's some sort of a repeat of last year where the Hornets made their pick and a lot of people went, who is that? Tidjane Salaun. Now, again, the context being it was a much different dynamic in that draft. In this draft, you've got so many players that we watch play at least one season in college basketball. But is there anybody at this 4 spot that, in the back of your mind, you could say, Yakachonis? Like, is there a surprise in store, do you think?
Maybe Derek Queen. Maybe, but I just think that after what happened last year, and no ill intent to Tidjane, I think the Hornets owners, Rick and Gabe, want to see wins. They want to see an NBA-ready guy that slots in there, and for that reason, I don't see them going on a flyer. I think they choose a more safe option with 4.
All right, so we're going to take you the clock is run out on the Hornets. They are about to turn in their pick. Adam Silver is about to take the stage in Brooklyn. Let's let you listen in on the Hornets draft party at the KC at Beaumont in South End, because we're about to hear Hornets fans' reaction to the number 4 pick. All right, obviously a few more seconds remain before that draft card gets to Adam Silver, so we will make sure to get live reaction as it comes in from that draft party in South End. But Jeremy, again, I mean, everybody has stopped what they are doing there. They're swaying. There is nervous energy that I can feel from South End all the way here off Billy Graham Parkway, and we've discussed the reasons why. I think more than any other franchise that has picked so far, this is the one with the most reason to be concerned right now, right?
Absolutely. And when you think of the pillars you have with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, you're just thinking if we can nail one more pick, we can finally turn that corner as a franchise. And I think that's why you see so much anxiousness from the Hornets group, from the Hornets supporters and fan base, because this could be it.
All right, let's take a listen in at the Hornets draft party. The pick is in. Con Knippel is a Charlotte Hornet, the Robin to Cooper Flagg's Batman in Durham, North Carolina. There is the reaction. I think it's a mostly positive reaction, Jeremy. A lot of people really fired up, very fired up, that one gentleman there. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of negativity about this pick, but there might be some, certainly. Why would somebody look at this pick and say not at 4?
Not at 4, just to entertain this. I think that he will have some struggle on the defensive side of the ball. What we've seen in the NBA is that the backcourt position is so deep. Even guys like Trey Mann on the Hornets, these guys are 6th men and deeper on a rotation, on a roster, and they can still hunt people on defense and get guys in optimistic or good matchups for them. So I worry about the lateral quickness a little bit for Con, but as Brandon said, he's a winner. This guy will definitely be okay and ready to work on that side of the ball. And for that reason, I'm okay with the pick. If anything, I'm actually more than okay with the pick.
Okay, so he does a lot of things really well, but the best thing he does is shoot the 3. How badly do the Hornets need it, and how do you think it translates from Durham to Charlotte?
This is the biggest thing the Hornets needed other than defense. When you think about a team with a shot creator, a guy who can play make for everybody in a LaMelo Ball, you want to be able to have someone like Con Knippel. When the defense collapses, they have to respect him from the corner, meaning I can't bring that double to LaMelo. I can't bring that double to Brandon Miller because we have a knockdown shooter in Con Knippel. This guy, only the shooting kind of comes out and highlights, but we saw in the ACC tournament when Kaman Maluach and Con Knippel had a screen and roll against the UNC Tar Heels, they had lobs over and over and over again. He can also play make for others when you get the gravity for Brandon and LaMelo.
We'll go through your projected starting lineup in a moment, but is he somebody that you could see starting this season?
Absolutely.
Okay. Con Knippel at 4 to the Charlotte Hornets. We have Danielle Stein, our sports reporter, live at Hornets draft headquarters, which is, it's a little different these days at the Capitol Grill, and the Hornets are holed up at Fifth Third Bank. Danielle, we did just see the Hornets fan party reaction in South End. I'd say it was overwhelmingly positive. It does seem like the Hornets went with a very safe pick here instead of going the Ace Bailey and trade route. What are your thoughts on Con Knippel, the Charlotte Hornet?
Yeah, I think you said the word that was kind of expressed across this room that I'm in with fellow media members as well, being safe. That's a word that, of course, is not a bad thing when you are a Hornets team who would maybe like some stability as they're entering a year, not taking a major risk on a player like Ace Bailey, like you mentioned, but having Con, who is proven to be a winner, as you talked about with Duke, getting that ACC tournament MVP title, helping lead them all the way to that Final Four. Even when Cooper was out, he really stepped up in so many different ways. We talked about how complete his game is, and you and I spoke about how, yes, he was just a freshman, but he also brings a lot of maturity. He seemed to really carry the weight of the Duke team on his shoulders. He seemed always to be level-headed. He seemed calm, cool, collected, and I think that's going to be very valuable joining onto this Hornets team.
All right, Danielle Stein joining us from Hornets headquarters. We'll hear from President of Basketball Operations, Jeff Peterson. Sounds like after the first round is complete, maybe. Do you read anything into that? They've got those 2 early seconds.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that screams there could be some more picks coming tonight. We will see. But yeah, having them, normally they were going to speak right after the pick, and then to push it till the end shows me that, hey, they might not be done today. I think Con is a great first pick for them for this draft, but who knows? We might be getting another player in the second round, in this first round coming later tonight, and we're going to be hearing from Jeff Peterson. We're also going to be hearing from Con Knippel via Zoom in just a little bit here as well.
Yeah, and I'll let you get to that because that's a big one. We want to make sure you're on that. Last question, Danielle. You've been here for 6 months, but two things you have covered are the end of a dismal Charlotte Hornets season and the ACC tournament in which Con Knippel had to carry the load after Cooper Flagg's unfortunate injury against Georgia Tech. So what did you learn about both and how this could all mesh right away?
Yeah, like we said, I think he does come in with a pretty complete game. We've talked about that outside shooting, but I was really impressed at some of the other things he was able to do. His rebounding, he was aggressive. He was going in the lane as well, really seamlessly. It looks like in some of those ACC tournament games that we saw him already comfortable playing at the Spectrum Center, which is a good sign during that ACC tournament. But he's someone who, like we were talking about, is level-headed and seems to be mature beyond his years already. So coming into a team that has players that might be needing to lean on some of that maturity could be a good thing. Even if he is younger in age, it might be good to have more of a rock sort of stable feature in their lineup as well.
All right, Danielle Stein about to be on the call with Con Knippel, the newest Charlotte Hornet. I got to get one of those hats he has on. I don't know if you saw it on the draft, so hopefully he's still wearing that. We can find out where he got it. But and he's got a lot of siblings too. I'm sure it'll all come up. But my goodness, there are a lot of Knippels on that on the broadcast that are all coming to Charlotte apparently.
And they're all excellent athletes from what I've heard as well.
It could be the first of many Knippels on the Charlotte Hornets. Who knows? Danielle Stein in Uptown, thanks for joining us. And we will check in later and hear from Jeff Peterson and Con Knippel. And you will be live with Walker Mail around 9:15 to further break down the selection of Con Knippel. Jeremy, want to get back to the choice there because there clearly was a choice. The Hornets removed Ace Bailey and that situation from the choices and went Con Knippel, presumably over Trey Johnson. Why not Trey Johnson? If you could put yourself in the mind of Jeff Peterson, why not Trey Johnson there with all the offensive potential?
If I could put myself in the mind of Jeff Peterson, I think Trey Johnson, in order to be at his best, would need the ball in his hands. And with guys like Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball that already eat up a lot of the shot diet of the Hornets, I think that having a guy like Con Knippel that is exceptional off the ball really helps him. I mentioned earlier with Ace Bailey how scaling back is way harder than you think it is. I don't think Con needs to scale back. I think the guy he was at Duke will fit seamlessly into the guy he can be on the Hornets.
All right, we'll see where Trey Johnson goes. Ace Bailey is gone now to the Utah Jazz. That's going to be awfully interesting for a lot of reasons, but we'll skip that and we will discuss Jeremy Grandison's projected starting lineup for the Charlotte Hornets in 2025 and 2026. Shout out to producer Jeb Goldman for putting this together quickly. Look at that. So how does this all fit together? Con Knippel in at starting shooting guard.
I think this is great for Charles Lee and his offense. I think about it like an NFL playbook, where if you're Kyle Shanahan and you have Christian McCaffrey and you have George Kittle and you have Brock Purdy and then Kyle Juszczyk, you have so many different options on offense, so many different schemes and alterations and formations you can use. With a guy like Con, with the shooting he brings the Hornets, I think it opens up the playbook for what Charles Lee wants to do on offense. And man, what we've seen from him is he is a master at ATOs, calling a timeout, coming back out and drawing up a great play. Having a guy that can be a knockdown shooter, making the defense respect that guy, opens up so much for everyone else on the court.
How do things look defensively, and do they look any better tonight?
Defensively is where I have some concern because I think of a back line of LaMelo, Con Knippel, and Brandon Miller. And if you're an opposing team, you're licking your lips, you're licking your chops because we've seen Brandon Miller and LaMelo have foul trouble problems in the past. I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think you're going to need to draft someone else or acquire someone else that can come in at that 2 guard, at that 3 guard, and be able to alleviate some defensive pressure from those two.
All right, so Utah takes Ace Bailey. Do you think they're trading Ace Bailey? What do you think of the Jazz taking Ace Bailey? Because that's not something I'd really considered before tonight.
Danny Ainge is a wizard And I think that if you
But not really.
Not really.
Because that would have been next.
Absolutely. I think if you want to play with Danny Ainge, it's a tough game to play. I think Danny Ainge said, we're going to grab him. If you want to get him, come to me. Let's have some talks. And for that reason, be very wary about calling the Jazz, because we've seen that Danny Ainge comes out on the right side of things more often than not.
All right, so again, we are here on the WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus NBA Draft Special discussing, obviously, the Charlotte Hornets, but also the Duke Blue Devils as we await sound post-selection from Cooper Flagg and now Con Knippel at Duke. We do have a crew in Brooklyn, New York at Barclays Center standing by waiting for those news conferences, and as we get that sound in from those players, we will pass them along to you immediately, and we will also hear what Con Knippel tells the assembled Charlotte media in Uptown via Zoom tonight as well. Later tonight, we will have ESPN's Paul Biancardi. That'll be in about 17 minutes. Boy, that flew by. And we will have Locked On Hornets co-host Walker Mail to break down the draft at large, but specifically the Charlotte Hornets at number 4 selecting Con Knippel. Do want to hear now some of the previous sound we got from folks on Con Knippel, because this was certainly always a possibility. Let's hear from Terrence Oglesby, again, a shooting guard himself, I believe, at Clemson, and then a nice career over in Europe. Here was his analysis of Con Knippel, again, taped before, well before the draft, but he's got a good breakdown of the newest Charlotte Hornet here.
You know, he's not a great athlete, but then again, it goes back to, you know, are you going to pick for ceiling or are you going to pick for floor? That floor is pretty high for Con Knippel. Not a great athlete, not going to dunk on you, but what he is capable of doing, and I had a couple of Duke games for ESPN last year, is like he can spotlight at the point for you. He's a terrific reader of the game when he comes off ball screens. He can find open guys, and he could give you a little bit of a change of pace from what LaMelo is if you need a secondary ball handler to get Brandon to his spots. So I absolutely think he's in play. That is an upside as opposed to a baseline pick. And I think Con Knippel's going to play in the NBA for a long time, because knockdown shooters right away, and a guy who makes good decisions, who's competitive, who's a professional, those guys stick.
Yeah. Jeremy, I think everybody expects Con Knippel to be in the NBA for a very long time. What do you think his ceiling is? And he's probably got the highest floor of the top 10.
Ceiling? Off the top of my head, I can't give you a great one, but I will say a guy like Pat Connaughton comes to mind, where this guy, he's not as athletic as Pat Connaughton, but what Pat Connaughton did for the Bucks during that 2021 playoff run is come in, give you some great minutes, hit some big threes for you, and be an energy changer for the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Con Knippel also, with his high IQ, his winning mentality, can bring those same traits that a guy like Pat Connaughton did. And of course, this guy's just a better shooter than guys like Pat Connaughton and those elk. Again, I can't stress it enough. If he gets the ball in the corner, Hornets fans put the 3 up because the shot's going in.
All right, defensively, you've talked about the reasons that he will get picked on immediately. He may have some physical limitations that just, you know, how is he going to overcome that? Because he is going to have to overcome that through his career. Can he?
He absolutely can.
Okay.
And it's going to be beating guys to their spots, scouting guys well, knowing your opponent's weaknesses and strengths, and being able to play to both of those things. A great example, Rajon Rondo said back in the day, I looked at James Harden and I noticed that on his 4th in between the legs dribble, that's when he would attack the basket. Rajon Rondo might not be as tall or as big as James Harden, but because he did the homework on Harden, he was able to strip him and get steals that way. I think Con, even though you may give up something on the athletic side, if you can do your scouting, if you can be diligent, you'll be able to beat them to the spot, know where they're going before they do, and that's what he should do to be able to maximize his defense.
What does this pick tell us about the Charlotte Hornets, who selected a very young, project player last year, now select a very young, more proven commodity this year, and pass up on maybe some more developmental guys like Ace Bailey and less so Trey Johnson? What does it say about where they think they are right now?
One word: character.
Okay.
Tidjane, high motor. This guy cares. He's in the gym all the time. When I would go to those shoot-arounds, those post-practice things, Tidjane's always the last guy in the gym, getting in more work. I think Con fits the same bill. This guy's a winner. He cares. And, of course, it's easy to say those things, but when you see other reports of what Ace Bailey's doing and all these other things and these other speculations, I do think that Con fits what Jeff and Charles have been preaching the entire season, and that's that they want a guy who's ready and a guy who is willing to go in every day, try to get better, even if that means you might get some hard coaching at times.
It's very easy to say that this is an immature Charlotte Hornets team, and that's all you hear about from the outside. I do think there are some truths to that in certain respects. Does this pick help mature this team, even though he's 19 years old?
Maturity-wise, I'd say no.
Okay.
But what I would say is you know exactly what you're getting. You can have Con walk in day one and be able to contribute to an NBA team. I think that's what the Hornets are looking for. Again, guys like Trey Johnson are maybe more talented, more skillful, but fit-wise, Con Knippel next to a guy like LaMelo Ball who can find him in his spots. I think that's a match made in heaven.
So we've missed Trey Johnson went to Washington. So the Hornets did not select Trey Johnson. They will face Trey Johnson
Let
many
me do
times.
my Windy 2 pointers up on ESPN right here. The Pelicans got off a pool yesterday, opening up a spot right there for Trey Johnson. I do think that this was telegraphed. They knew where they were going. They probably knew where the Hornets were going with Con Knippel. And now this makes me think, man, if you could have convinced the Wizards that you were getting Trey, you might have been able to move back a spot, still get Con, and maybe some other draft.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying. I'm laughing at what I'm seeing, and that is the Hornets fan reaction. We're getting fan interviews from that draft party in Southend, and people look fired up. We'll bring that to you in a few moments. That was one thing I didn't want to take live. So we don't know what we're going to get. I heard there were beverages there. So we're going to hold off on that and get to that in a moment. Jeremy, we talked about, potential for this team to make a 7 seed before the Con Knippel pick came in. Does it stay there at 7 for you? Is that like the highest, the ceiling? Which, I say the highest, like that surprised me when you said 7. So does it stay there?
I think it stays at 7. The top 6, even though we say the East is a little weaker than normal, the top 6 is pretty set for me. 7 is where you can slide in. 7 is where you can make some rumblings. And also 7 is where you can have a home game for that play-in game, not worry about being on the road for it.
Hasn't gone well in the past.
Hasn't gone well in the past. So hopefully that 7 spot can be where the Hornets are going in to the end of next season.
You mentioned why the Wizards made the pool move and making way for Trey Johnson. Just, what scares you as a Hornets, if you're a Hornets fan, about Trey Johnson coming to Spectrum Center, knowing that he got passed up on, and he seems like a kid that would probably remember that?
That's one of those things where I get the Jalen Walker comparisons where you're saying, oh, you think Con's better than me? I'll show you 4 times a year that I'm the better guy. And, of course, Con might be the better fit for the Hornets, but Trey Johnson is showing the real right now. This guy is a bucket. He can get to his spots. He can rise up. He can play make for others. And just like Con, if he's shooting the ball, it's probably going in as well.
All right, so the Pelicans are on the clock. They seem to be perennially trying to move Zion Williamson. We have not seen a trade shaking up the top 10. Are you surprised by that, and do you think one could be coming soon?
I am surprised. I thought the draft would start at 4. We saw that it did, and I also thought that we'd have some, some things happen that we haven't seen happen yet.
Okay.
I do think it'll happen maybe in the tail end of the top 10, but if anything, this shows me that every team has been giving smoke screens for weeks on end. They may say they don't know who they want, but in reality, they know exactly who they want. They're not trading the pick, and they're going for the guy.
All right, 9 minutes until ESPN's Paul Biancardi, about 25 minutes until Locked On Hornets co-host Walker Mail breaks down the Charlotte Hornets selection of Con Knippel at number 4 in the 2025 NBA draft. In the meantime, we will hear from Hornets fans who just reacted to the pick in Southend. We will hear from a combination of Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel from Brooklyn, and also a Zoom that the Hornets reporters, including our own Danielle Stein, are taking part in Uptown much later tonight, whether it's here on WCNC and WFMY Plus or on WCNC and WFMY. We will hear from Hornets president of basketball operations, Jeff Peterson. Now, Jeremy, Jeff Peterson was originally slated to speak to the media after the pick was made. It was then moved to after the first round was made. The first thing that comes to my mind after covering a lot of these is, well, somebody just thought it was one thing and then, oh, no, sorry, boss, it's another. Do you read anything into that at all? Because they have the 2 early second-round picks tomorrow.
If I can remember, last year we waited until after the first round.
I believe so, too.
As well.
That may just be the way they do it.
It might be the way they do it, but, you know, it also could be keep your options open.
It's fun to talk about.
What if you have a second-round draft pick that maybe you want to leverage into getting somewhere in the early or in the late first? You never know. With Jeff Peterson, as we've seen, he stockpiled a ton of second-rounders. That could be something he wants to go to later in the first round. I think if you're Jeff, you're saying until the first round is over, I don't want to talk to any media. I want to stay in my war room. I want to make sure we have covered every base, and for that reason, we'll hear from him after the first round.
Jeb, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do we have the graphic of the Hornets' future draft capital that we can get to?
We do.
So we'll dance and he's about to get it already. So, you know, you talk about those assets stockpiled. Do you see Jeff Peterson modeling his game, so to speak, after any GM or franchise that you look around on the rest of the NBA?
Absolutely, Sam Presti, and I know that's kind of some high praise early on, but I saw an interview.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds great on paper, right? I saw an interview with Sam about 4 years ago in 2021 when the Thunder were the worst team in the NBA, and Sam said, we want to make the playoffs, but we don't want it to be an appearance. We want it to be an arrival. That's something that Jeff has, you know, reiterated on many different occasions, and something that Sam has done, stockpile picks, even if it's second rounders, because you can find value in the second round. Andrew Nembhard, second rounder. Aaron Nesmith, forgotten guy. Lou Dort, second rounder, late draft pick. You can still find gems later in the round, and for that reason, not only for the Hornets, but you could trade those, package them for other players as well.
I mean, I'm counting, I believe, 8 future firsts from 26 to 31. Now, a lot of them are contingent on protections, but I mean, what's the first group of picks that stands out to you? And or like, look at next year. Like, what could this team do with that haul next year?
What they could do with the haul next year is, let's say you have a great season. Let's say you do ceiling, you do top out at number 7. Okay, now I have Kahn, I have LaMelo, I have Brandon Miller. Who is that veteran piece that now that we know we can win, can take us over the top? I think the Pacers are a great example with Pascal Siakam. They had Tyrese Halliburton, they had Miles Turner, they had Benedict Mathurin, and they said, you know what? Now let's go get that veteran. I think those picks at some point could be used to say, hey, here's a little bit of capital. Now we want to have a proven guy because we think we can take the next step.
All right, that 2027 haul to me looks like where you could really use it to do some damage. How quickly can the Hornets cash this in? How quickly do you think they want to cash a lot of this in? Now that you've said, like, this roster, given health and performance, could be a play-in team, potentially one of the better play-in teams this year.
So like Jeff said, it was hard for him to evaluate the team last year because of injury. This year, to your question, how quickly they want to move on the 2027 picks and what they have there all determines and hinges on what happens this season. If they see stuff that they are, you know, optimistic about, that they really like, if they see that Kahn is really that guy, okay, it might be time to move and take that next step. However, if we see the injury bug happen again, if we see them back below 10, keep those picks, don't make a move, don't rush things.
Are there any of the first-round picks that look great to you on paper, but you're like, that one's not happening? Like, that won't happen?
In this draft class right here?
Yeah.
I would say that a guy, this isn't really a first-round pick, but Tidjane James out of Duke.
Yeah.
Those types of guys play in the playoffs and give you great minutes.
Yep.
Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, guys that can lock you down and then hit an open three when they get it. I think guys like Tidjane James, is weird. We always see them fall to the end of the draft or the second round, and they end up being really, really helpful to good teams early on. So if you see Tidjane, if you see Elijah Martin out of UF, and you say, oh, these guys might not be highly touted prospects, we still might get a lot of production out of them on a team like the Hornets.
All right, Jeremiah Fears to the Pelicans. The Brooklyn Nets are on the clock. They were a team highly associated with Ace Bailey. They, you know, where do you think the Nets are in terms? Like, they were the team to model yourselves after at some point, and then they had a lot of fits and starts and resets.
I think it depends what they want to do with Nick Claxton. I wouldn't go for a center if I were them. I wouldn't go Common Maluwach so far or so early. Maybe a Sengwe, 6'10" guy who can give you a lot there. But in terms of Brooklyn, you can kind of have that Tidjane pick. You can have that flyer, that guy that you want to develop that can maybe have a big hit for you because you aren't looking to win right away. So if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I might even trade farther back and say, hey, guys, look, we're in no rush. Someone take some more draft capital from us, and let's try and go and get a guy that could be a project that turns out to really hit 3 or 4 years down the line.
Okay, so we're anticipating a few things here. In 2 minutes, we are going to get ESPN's Paul Biancardi, who we heard from in a few snippets that we taped a couple of weeks ago. Now we will get his live reaction to the Hornets pick. I see him getting his shot ready right now. Always appreciate Paul coming on. Longtime college basketball coach, longtime NBA scout, and high school prospect expert. Sounds like Con Knipple will talk to the Charlotte media while we are doing that, so we're going to get that to you soon after. Jeb, you just let me know when you're ready with Paul, but I know we're still a few minutes away, but I see him on time as a coach would be. So we'll get to Paul in a moment, and we'll hear from some Hornets fans as well. Dylan Harper is about to go to the podium in Brooklyn, and we're probably going to get some Cooper Flagg sound from Brooklyn as well. We've got Paul Biancardi. Paul, thank you for joining me, man. Late here at night. You're here with me and Jeremy Grandison, Hornets beat writer. So Con Knipple, I mean, is a guy you liked, and they took him at 4. It seems like they didn't mess around, Jeff Peterson. Just go get your guy at 4.
Love it. They solved their biggest problem, Nick, outside shooting. They average a lot of threes per game, and they're probably one of the worst three-point shooting teams last year in the NBA. So what did Jeff Peterson do? He solved the problem. This guy is an elite shot maker, the best catch-and-shoot guy in the class, in my opinion. Let me give you some numbers. 40% from 3 overall, 91% from the free throw line. And Nick, when Cooper Flagg was out against Georgia Tech in the first game of the ACC tournament, Con Knipple had 28 points without Cooper Flagg. And in the last 4 games of the NCAA tournament, he shot 9 of 14 from 3. The floor just opened up for LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller.
Do you worry about, defenses kind of going after him, especially early on? And how can Con overcome some of those things? He's a willing defender, it appears to the untrained eye, but at the NBA, it's going to be a little different.
Yeah, he's athletically challenged a little bit. But you know what? A lot of these guys are not good defenders. Cooper Flagg, Houston went at Cooper Flagg in the Final Four because they challenged his lateral quickness. You learn how to play defense, but you can't learn how to shoot in the NBA. That takes a long time. Defense is positioning and want to. And listen, Con Knipple is an elite shot maker, high assist maker. He's got a high basketball IQ, which tells me he's going to learn how to play defense the way the Hornets are going to play it. His foot speed will improve a little bit. The pace of the game will be a little bit fast for him, but I'll tell you what, you give him the basketball, and if he's not covered, I put the mortgage on it that he's going to knock it down.
Paul, we were listening in to Brandon Miller's comments at the Hornets draft party before the selection was made. Somebody asked him, what do you want? He said a winner. Miller clearly has that mentality. Con Knipple's just 19 years old, but do you think he's a guy that can come into this locker room and rub off on guys from a competitive standpoint, from a will-to-win standpoint?
Yes, he's not a loud talker. His game does the talking. Nick, in high school, they won over 30 games. They went undefeated, his high school team, and they won a state championship. At Duke, he was the second best player on a team that went to a Final Four as a freshman. He has played up his entire life. And in grassroots basketball, he was the leading scorer of the Nike EYBL, which is the best grassroots circuit, and he was the leading scorer. This guy puts the ball in the bucket. He's not just a shooter, so everyone needs to understand that. He will get to the rim and finish. He'll get there on straight line drives. He's highly efficient, and he is very comfortable and confident from the outside. I just think the Charlotte Hornets did the exact right thing. They addressed the biggest problem they had.
I know you were high on the potential of Ace Bailey, who goes 1 pick later to Utah. Why do you think, if you could put your if you could be in Jeff Peterson's mind, and better you than me, but why do you think they went the route they did? Was it because of an immediate fit?
One is a fit, and number two is I don't think they wanted to deal with the shenanigans that went on with Ace Bailey. That's why Philly passed on him. They took VJ Edgecombe, who was close in talent to Ace Bailey. And Charlotte probably tried to maybe take the pick and trade it. Didn't work out. They took the guy they needed and wanted. If you like Dalton Connect, which I did very much last year in the NBA draft, I think Con Knipple can be a better Dalton Connect.
Well, the Hornets certainly liked Dalton Connect, as we found out the hard way.
Almost traded for him.
How many of let me try to find a way to put this. Con Knipple seems to be a jack of all trades. How many of those trades could he master over the course of his NBA career?
Well, he's got 2 NBA transferable skills: outside shooting, movement shooting, and stationary shooting. Those are 2 transferable skills. He could do that tomorrow in the NBA. But his passing, he was over 2-to-1 on his assist-to-turnover ratio. He handled the basketball an awful lot with Cooper Flagg. So I would say the passing, the shooting, and IQ. He can pick up schemes. He understands concepts. He knows where to be. He understands execution. Those are 3 things that he's bringing to the Hornets on day one.
All right, so after Con, it was Ace at 5 to the Jazz, Trey Johnson at 6 to the Wizards, Fears to the Pelicans at number 7. Igor Demon from BYU, Paul, just went to the Brooklyn Nets. I know you know all about this dude from BYU. He can be a menace.
Yeah, he's a huge playmaker. He measured out as the tallest point guard ever at the NBA Combine, close to 6'9". The Brooklyn Nets have 5 first-round picks. They're going to be doing some trading. You don't know if they took Demon to trade him or to keep him, but they can't keep 5 first-round picks. They're in a real rebuild, so they can't be that young again. Some of the picks they'll keep, some of them they'll look to trade.
All right, Raptors, Rockets, Blazers, Bulls, kind of rounding out the top 12. Are we in Kaman Malawash territory now? And what are your thoughts on him? Because he just seems to be just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, he's so young in the game, right? I talked to the Duke staff this week, and they loved his personality on the court, in the locker room. He's an immense shot blocker or rim protector. Think about this, 9-foot, 6-inch standing reach. I mean, the rim is only 4 more inches, right? It's 10 feet high. So his ability to be a presence inside for an NBA team is much needed. His scoring ability stays inside. And the one thing I know, Nick, from going to practices, he's got a little bit of a jump shot from the outside. He's not going to come into the NBA and shoot right away. He's going to come in and run the floor. He's going to play defense and be a presence. He's going to be a rim finisher, a lob catcher. They'll put him in the dunker spot. I think he'll give great energy to some franchise at the 5 spot.
Paul, we were just talking about the way Jeff Peterson has been collecting assets. He didn't feel the need to here in the top 5, but I think he's got 8 first-round picks in the next 6 years after this with, some variation of protections. What are your thoughts overall on a very young president of basketball operations for Charlotte and his ability to swing deals and, build not only a roster but future assets in just a short time?
Well, they're going to need those future assets as they get closer to being a playoff team. Jeff Peterson really doesn't know what he has here in Charlotte. He's never seen a healthy team on the floor, but for 13 games this last year. So he came into a situation not knowing in his first year. Second year, the Hornets, had so many injuries. I like the way he addressed the problem that the Hornets had. He didn't complicate matters. He kept it simple. He got the right type of person in the locker room for the Hornets. Character is huge to Jeff Peterson and the entire organization. They want to build this with talented guys that have traits. And Con Knipple is everything you want as a GM and a coach.
All right, Paul Biancardi, one more before we let you go tonight. And again, thank you for lending your expertise to us. I could throw any name out there for the next 4 years and you'd know him. So we appreciate that. The Hornets have two very early second-round picks back-to-back tomorrow night as they split the rounds 1 and 2 into 2 days now. In my mind, just seeing all these Hornets drafts over the years, I don't think there's any way they take back-to-back picks, but they may like 2 guys a lot in that spot. So what do you think they could come away with there? And do you think there's any chance Jeff Peterson isn't done tonight?
he may not be done. He could take those 2 second-round picks and try to trade up and get something in the 20s that they have their eye on. Keep an eye on Jeff Peterson making a move into late in the first round. There's some great size out there. I mean, size with skill, different than a Mark Williams, different than a Nick Richards. I like Danny Wolf a lot, a young man from Michigan. Very, very skilled with the basketball in terms of passing and handling. I also like Ryan Cockbrenner from Creighton. I think he gives a great defensive presence with some skill, a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East. So those 2 big guys, keep an eye on Walter Clayton Jr. I'm going to tell you why. The Hornets still need somebody to play backup point guard to LaMelo Ball. He's proven that he can't play a whole season. And at times, if he's not playing the right way, you have somebody who's battle-tested, who's plays with unwavering confidence and can score the ball at the same time. I think Walter Clayton Jr. would be a great fit with the Hornets.
He's been watching these young guys for years, and that's why we love having him on. Paul Biancardi, thank you as always, sir, from ESPN and the Top 100. Have a good night, buddy.
All right, Nick, thanks for having me.
You got it, anytime. So just to reset here on the WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus NBA Draft Special, I'm Nick Carboni here with Jeremy Grandison, Charlotte Hornets beat writer in studio. And now we're just waiting on some fun stuff. We've got some preloaded we'll get to in a minute. Just a quick aside, Cooper Flagg went ahead of Dylan Harper in the draft. Dylan Harper went ahead to the microphone before Cooper Flagg. I think Cooper's probably real busy. Doesn't get any busier than being the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So we will hear from Cooper Flagg momentarily as soon as that wraps up. Meanwhile, in Uptown Charlotte, we are the Charlotte media should be hearing right now from Con Knippel via Zoom. That is before he goes to the podium in Brooklyn. So we'll be sure to bring you those comments before he even talks to the national media up in Brooklyn, New York. But first I want to get to, we had the party in South End, Charlotte at Casey by Beaumont on North Tryon Street. We took their reaction live. Jeremy, it seemed to be positive, right? Did you see a lot of head shaking? I didn't see Hugo the Hornet bowing like he did with Brandon Miller.
I did not see Hugo the Hornet bowing. It seems like there's optimism in the Queen City for Con Knippel, and I think that having that Duke connection, them being able to see him for a while, see him in the ACC tournament, see what he did in the NCAA tournament, I think that spells good fortune for the Hornets fans. They've seen what this guy can do, how productive he can be, even as an off-the-ball player, and that's why I think we've seen a lot of optimism coming from South End, Charlotte, and the Queen City.
All right, let us hear from Charlotte Hornets fans' unfiltered reactions, well, maybe a little filtered, to the selection of Con Knippel.
I like it. I know he's a great shooter. I watched him a little bit at Duke. I think it's going to be a great addition to the team, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's nice to have, a hometown kid, so I think it's a great pick.
And speaking of Duke, Duke's got 2 picks that just went out. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's pretty typical. Duke's a great program. They always have great players coming out of there, so it's nothing new. I can't say I'm surprised.
The pick tonight, how do you think he's going to add to the team?
I think just the shooting. It's simple as that. Also just the hustle. I mean, they talked about it. He's diving to the ground, getting after it. So hustle, shooting. I think that's 2 great things to bring to the team, and it's going to be a great improvement.
What are you hoping that you can bring this year? How do you think the team is going to do that?
I think just build around the intensity that he brings, the effort. I think that's what they need. They need to, be a gritty team and get after it. Have that chip on their shoulder. They got that, reverse that losing mentality to a winning mentality. So I think that'll help.
Oh man, listen, it was something that the Hornets needed. I'm excited they got that pick. I can't wait to see what these guys are going to do in the future. I'm telling you, it's going to be a new season. I'm looking forward to these Hornets really doing their thing.
What do you think he's going to bring to the team?
Man, like they said, they were looking for somebody who was a scorer. They're looking for an athlete. I think LaMelo Ball is going to have a good time grooming this young man to be the best he can be. So, Hornets, Charlotte, we ready for it.
The eternal optimism of Charlotte Hornets fans. Jeremy, do you think it helps the kid played down the road? And he was the star of the ACC tournament here in Charlotte.
Absolutely. We not only got to see him in the NCAA tournament, he played in the Spectrum Center pretty well too. And again, those Kamon Maluwash alley-oops against the Tar Heels, whether you liked him or hated him, whether you rooted for the Tar Heels or the Blue Devils, you knew this guy could ball. And with Cooper Flagg being absent from that game, we saw Con have the ability to step up, become a playmaker, become a scorer too, and that spells good fortune for Hornets fans alike.
All right, Colin Murray Boyles, South Carolina, goes at 9 to the Toronto Raptors. The Rockets are next, Jeremy. Given the Rockets' recent massive move to get Kevin Durant, where do you see them going in this pick? Let's see the best available according to ESPN. You've got Maluwash still out there, Asangwe, Yakachonis. Those guys are still available. Derek Queen. What do you think the Rockets may be looking to do as they fancy themselves somebody that should go deeper in the playoffs?
Yeah, this one's tough because when you look at the Hornets, you need guys who are defensive backcourt guys or defensive forwards. The Rockets have a plethora of those guys. You have Amen Thompson. You have Tari Eason. You have Cam Whitmore. They don't need those guys. They also don't need floor spacing bigs. You have Jabari Smith. You have Kevin Durant. And then you have Alperen Şengün. So I think they go in two different directions. The first one could be maybe finding a guy to replace Fred VanVleet. He just signed a 2-year extension maybe when he gets off of that. But then you have Reed Sheppard, someone you drafted in the top 10 last year. I think they go dominant big man when Steven Adams is finally, phasing out of his NBA career, still relatively young at 30. I think they go on a solid big man who can provide them size, length, and great rim protection.
All right, just to give folks an update, we are minutes away from the following. Cooper Flagg's press conference from Brooklyn, New York. Con Knippel's Zoom media interview with the Charlotte media. And before all of that, we are soon going to take our own Danielle Stein, who is down in Uptown where the pick was made, and she's going to be standing by very shortly with Locked On Hornets co-host Walker Mail, who I think will be positive about the pick. But Jeremy, like you said, there are some questions about the defense, and I think Walker will speak to that as well. Before this night ends, and I know, and I thank you for being here with us tonight, Jeremy, because I know you could be down there talking to Jeff Peterson tonight and asking him questions. How would you ask him about picking Con, and do you think they took calls for Ace Bailey? Do you think they got close? It seems like being here, and we don't have the benefit of being in either place, that they just were like, we're getting our guy, because we've been hearing about it for about a week.
I don't think they took calls anymore because Danny went and got him. Yeah. I think Danny was saying, you know what, if he falls to us, we're going to take him, no questions asked. And now people have to call Danny in order to get Ace Bailey. But I think, you know what, Hornets didn't want to get too cute. They didn't want to get too sexy. You evaluate your guy. You find the one you want. A great off-the-ball shooter, can space the floor, can move off the ball as well. I think they looked at Con and said, he's our guy. Let's not try to make it too sexy, as I said before. Let's just go and secure him and worry about everything after.
We also are preventing you from asking Con Knippel questions right now, and I apologize again, but it's been awesome having you here. Yes, you will. The draft picks, by the way, will be introduced Friday at Lowe's in South End, and Jeremy Grandison will have coverage. We'll have coverage as well and one-on-ones with the Hornets' first-round pick, and we'll see what they do in the second. We'll discuss that in just a moment. What would you ask Con Knippel tonight?
You were able to thrive off the ball in a system with Duke. You were able to get to your spots with a coach like John Shire that could draw you up great plays. How do you think you'll be able to fit alongside LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller? Two guys who can also shoot. There's a ton of floor spacing, but do you think you can excel in this lineup? And if so, explain what ways could you do that?
What would you ask him Friday?
If I could ask him anything...
I'm dancing here, Jeremy.
No, you're good. If I could ask him anything Friday...
My first toe tap of the night.
I would, I'll toe tap too. I would say you played the Spectrum Center before. You've been able to see the environment, the fan base in Charlotte. Even though it might not be for the Hornets, it was still in the same location. How do you feel? And does that rim feel good to shoot on when you're in the Spectrum Center?
Charles Lee's offense and Con Knippel, that seems to match up.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of threes.
And
you're saying a lot of them are going to go in, hopefully.
A lot of threes, and not just any threes. Threes that are schemed up for Con. Threes that they are, putting him in the best position to get, and also wide open catch and shoot threes when LaMelo Ball is able to bring gravity from other defenders on the court.
All right, let's take a listen to Con Knipples just minutes ago. He met with the Charlotte media via Zoom, and we're going to take a listen to what was said on that call.
Hey, Con, congratulations again and welcome to Charlotte.
Thank you.
So, of course, we all heard about the Ball brothers over the years, but now we're learning about the Flying Knipples as well. You feel like y'all are going to be the next great kind of brothers of basketball to come through the NBA, and could Charlotte see any more Knipples coming through in the future?
We'll see. I think the boys got to keep working hard and loving the game and getting in the gym every day. I know they will, but that would be awesome if that happens. But the likelihood of that is not high. But I think they'll be great players in their own right.
Hunter, go ahead.
Con, welcome to Charlotte. The Hornets held their training camp in Durham last year on Duke's campus. Did you get to meet any of the guys then? What were those interactions like last season?
They tried to do a good job of keeping us out of the gym. I know one of the days they ran long, so a bunch of us players got to see NBA training camp in action, which was a really cool experience.
Oh, yeah. Breaking news, Jeb. Thank you. We are going to come out with breaking news as Shams Charania of ESPN is reporting the Charlotte Hornets are trading center Mark Williams to the Phoenix Suns for tonight's 29th pick and a 2029 first-round pick. That's a pretty good haul for Mark Williams. Jeremy, what's your immediate reaction to that? So they're going to pick again tonight.
Immediate reaction, this is why the presser is happening after the first round, because Jeff felt like we weren't done making trades, acquisitions in today's draft. This is huge. We saw them try to do it earlier in the season. It didn't work out for whatever reason, but the thing with Mark, with me, wasn't the talent. It was the effort at some point. People forget, Mark can dunk the ball without leaving his feet. He has the measurables. He has all the stuff to be an incredible rim protector, an incredible rim runner. But I think we go back to that word, character, the mentality, the winner. And I think Jeff and Charles wanted to target somebody else. And look at that. Rockets, Kaman Maluach, big man to secure the boards.
Okay, yeah, got to use my phone in this instance, so sorry about that, Jeremy. So 29th, that's where the Hornets will pick again tonight. Seems to be a center, especially when you're losing one.
Yes.
Hesitation.
And no.
Okay.
Again, I want to go back to those guys like Nembhard and Neesmith and Lou Dort and Cason Wallace. If you can find those guys at the end of the draft, which is where they're usually sitting, go ahead and get them. Sion James, I'm a big fan.
Okay.
You just took a guy like Con Knippel. You know that you have some defensive deficiencies there too. Add another wrinkle to your team. Add a guy you can insert into that lineup and give the opponent backcourt players hell. I like them, of course, to go for a center, but if you don't, get a great defender in the backcourt.
All right, another Duke center, Kaman Maluach, goes to the Houston Rockets at number 10. The Mark Williams trade, I think it was just short of inevitable, based on the relationship and that it seemed to be, if not fractured, strained, after they tried to and did successfully for a few days trade him to the LA Lakers. So starting with Mark Williams and the Charlotte Hornets, did this just seem like it was going to happen after it already happened once?
Absolutely. I will say during exit interviews, we asked him, can't remember who asked specifically. However, he was asked about, not playing in back-to-backs last year. And what Mark said is, I could have played. The team did not want me playing. It seemed like they were on two different wavelengths ever since that trade that was rescinded happened. And for that reason, I didn't think they could mend that fence. I didn't think they could, fix that relationship. And for that reason, Phoenix gets them. Hornets get the 29th pick. And now, Jeff, you have another chance to really nail home another great pick for the Hornets.
If it's not a center, where do the Hornets stand at that position? They'll have Nurkic still. Is that enough?
No. If Nurkic is your option,
and Diabate,
and Diabate, you have to go somewhere else. You need to have someone that can be a real rim protector. I love Moussa Diabate, But when he plays the bigger centers in the NBA, it will be really tough for him to stay with them and stay out of foul trouble. If anything, go for a big guy that doesn't need to have a huge tool set, a huge skill set. Get a guy that can be a lob threat, get a guy that can block shots, and get a guy that can run the floor, because this team will be having fast breaks over and over and over again.
All right, real quick, and we're about to get to Danielle Stein and Walker Mail live outside Hornets draft headquarters, and the Hornets just making a big move again to recap here on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus. Hornets trading center Mark Williams to the Phoenix Suns for pick 29 tonight and a 2029 first-round pick to add to the haul that we've already discussed. So Jeff Peterson getting 2 hauls for 1 player in the span of 6 months. Just what does this say about the Hornets' young president of basketball ops?
It says a lot. It also means that teams around the league are interested in Mark Williams. They see the potential that he has, but with Jeff, who's seen him in the building over and over again, I don't think he thought this could be a core guy for this team. We've seen this before where GMs come in, they see a team that's been constructed, and they say, that's not my construction, that was the former regime's construction, now I'll step in and put my vision on the team. And clearly his vision did not include Mark Williams.
All right, let's get down to the Capitol Grill in Uptown Charlotte. That is where our Danielle Stein is standing by. After not only did the Hornets pick 4th and pick Con Knipple, they have just landed the 29th pick in the draft. Danielle and Locked On Hornets co-host Walker Mail standing by. Guys, take it away. I know you got a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, we'll start with the more recent news with that Mark Williams trade. Kind of ironic. You did just ask Con Knipple about what the chemistry might be with lobbing to him. What are your initial reactions to this trade?
Well, I do want to know, I was trying to figure out what my favorite Con Mark Williams memory was. It was a fun 5 seconds. Yeah, it's kind of wild that all this movement is happening, but we thought this might happen. There were so many options for the Hornets to explore in the draft tonight, and here they are taking Con Knipple. Con did answer a question during media availability where he did say he felt good about coming here to Charlotte after a meeting with Jeff Peterson, Charles Lee, and the brass here with the Hornets organization. And then, again, when I ask about Mark, I guess I didn't think they were going to trade him. There's the possibility, considering they traded him already just last season. And so now I wonder what they're going to do with that 29th pick that they gained in that trade, sending Mark out of the franchise. Are they going to address center? Is Nurkic enough? Does this mean we're going to let Moussa Diabate, let the Moose loose? Is that what's about to happen? I don't know. But we did think that there were a lot of opportunities for the Hornets to help their team out in a bunch of different ways. And looks like we're going to be here for a while with the 29th pick now in store.
And it's ironic, too, because the Phoenix Suns also, in the same spell of it, got his teammate in Kaman Malawach, too, who are the same position. With Con Knipple, we were all talking earlier. This is a good choice. Some are saying safe, but a very complete player. What is your assessment on what Con could be bringing to this team?
Yeah, I like Con Knipple as a prospect. If you were looking at Walker Mail's big board, I would have had VJ Edgecombe if he was available. Then I would have had Trey Johnson, who they decided to go with Con Knipple instead of Trey. He falls to Washington. But it doesn't mean I don't like the pick. I see the vision. I think he fits in very well with this offense specifically. So everybody's going to love the shooting. The shooting numbers are fantastic. I think he's a good driver. I think he's a good secondary ball handler. And while he's not going to break anybody's ankles, I think he's very efficient with his handle. I think he's a great decision maker once he gets into the paint. So part of the question when I was asking about Malawach and that chemistry with the big man, I think he does such a great job of drawing the rim protector out just at the right time, throwing the lob to whoever is going to catch that alley-oop from him. So LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple. With LaMelo and Con, I do think you have some really smart passing, and LaMelo obviously is the electric factory out there with the kind of passes that he can throw. So smart move. Defensively, there's going to be some worries. I do think that people are going to look to attack him. I think he absorbs contact well. He's strong. He's really tough. So I don't think you're going to be able to take advantage of him on the post. I don't think you're going to be able to take advantage of him by him giving any leeway with his positioning, but people are going to be able to beat him with his lack of lateral speed. But we'll see how that all comes along. I do like the pick. I think it's a good fit.
Obviously, offense is something that they did want to address. There was one game, I was just looking back at some stats. He had 28 points. He actually went 2 for 6 from 3. 12 of 13 from the field. So he knows how to score in other ways, too. Do you feel like Con is going to be ready to go in a starting lineup with this team?
I mean, theoretically, he's a guy that comes in and is ready to play right away with that shooting ability and with a low turnover percentage, and you don't have to rely on him handling the basketball nearly as much. So I do think that he's really a plug-and-play type of guy, offensively, again, more so than defensively. He's going to have a long way to go there. But I was really impressed with his ACC tournament run. When Cooper Flagg goes down in the very first game that Duke's playing here in Charlotte, it was all Con. He was the initiator. He was the guy that I believe shot very well in the first two games. Not so much against Louisville from three-point distance, but I think he was 6 of 7 in that game against Louisville inside the three-point arc, which is great for a guy that you don't consider that to be a strong suit for him. In the NCAA tournament, he shot 50% from three. He's just really efficient. He's so smart as a basketball player, and he showed up in the big moments when Duke needed him to be the guy rather than the second banana to Cooper Flagg, who goes number 1. So Con has a lot of ability, and I think he fits in well. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds, especially with what we're going to see his first year here.
As you guys mentioned, we are at the Capitol Grill for tonight's Hornets draft. We had our steaks, we had our chocolate cake, but now we have another draft pick that we might be seeing tonight. You kind of addressed a little bit about what you might expect to see when they go on 29. Any further insight from what you could be thinking?
Well, so a couple of targets that I had. I don't know if Maxime Reynaud out at Stanford is going to be there at 29. That seems a little too much of a wish for me. I don't think that's going to happen. I've been a big fan of Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton as a rim protector. I think he's very good in drop coverage. He was a multi-time conference defensive player of the year, so that's somebody I would look to be targeting, especially now that you only have one big-bodied center. Moussa Diabate, I love him when he's out there on the floor, but Charles Lee has mentioned in the past that you do have some limitations with him not being a 7-footer. And so with you getting rid of one, it would make a lot of sense for them to address one of the centers there at the end of the first round. Remember, they have 33, they have 34 still, so lots of bites at the apple either at the end of tonight or at the beginning of tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to hear from Jeff Peterson a little bit later on tonight after the first round wraps up, and we're going to hopefully get you guys back after we get the 29th pick as well.
All right, Danielle Stein and Walker Mail live from Capitol Grill. One more year, guys. Spectrum Center next year, or the new facility. But thanks for hanging with us and breaking all that down. I mean, that's the beauty of doing the special live here on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus, breaking news in the draft pertaining to the Charlotte Hornets as it happened. Massive trade. Mark Williams goes to the Suns. Charlotte gets Phoenix's 29th pick tonight and gets a 2029 first-round pick. So it just adds to Peterson's haul there. Jeremy is adamant that Jeff Peterson take Tidjane James from Duke. 2 Dukies in 1 round.
Go get him.
That seems like old Charlotte Hornets, just a different Tobacco Road team.
Old Charlotte Hornets, different Tobacco Road. I think what James does, what he brings to a team is invaluable. This guy can come in, take the hardest backcourt assignment, and can also space the floor when you need him. Teams might give him some space to work on his shot, but like we've seen, Lou Dort's a great example. In the 2020 bubble, he was guarding James Harden, and the Rockets quickly realized this guy can't shoot a penny in the ocean. So what? They gave him 10 feet of space, and they lost that series partly because Lou Dort couldn't space the floor. But what did he do? He got in the gym, he worked on his 3, and now he's a big reason why they lifted the Larry O'Brien trophy a few days back. Tidjane James is the same way, or Sion, can't remember the pronunciation on that.
I think it's Sion, yeah.
Sion, it's the same way where he can give you defense right out the gate, NBA ready. If he works on his 3, I think this will be a super talented and useful guy for the Hornets.
So you got time, you could run down and go talk to Jeff Peterson about it. I need you here, though, so I appreciate that. I wouldn't mind going back to we only heard a little bit from Con Knipple in that Charlotte media Zoom, Jeb, if we can get that back. Now, 2 things about this. You know, it's a Zoom, so bear with us there. And also, this was before and as Mark Williams was being traded. So, as Walker mentioned, maybe a question pertaining to playing with Mark Williams that is now dated by about 15 minutes. But here is more of Con Knipple with the Charlotte media, and we are going to get some one-on-one Cooper Flagg sound from Brooklyn very shortly as well. So stick around for that.
Hey, Con, congratulations again and welcome to Charlotte.
Thank you.
So, of course, we all heard about the Ball brothers over the years, but now we're learning about the Flying Knipples as well. You feel like y'all are going to be the next great kind of brothers of basketball to come through the NBA, and could Charlotte see any more Knipples coming through in the future? We'll see. I think the boys got to keep working hard and loving the game and getting in the gym every day. I know they will, but that would be awesome if that happens. But the likelihood of that is not high. But I think they'll be great players in their own right.
Hunter, go ahead.
Colin, welcome to Charlotte. The Hornets held their training camp in Durham last year on Duke's campus. Did you get to meet any of the guys then? What were those interactions like last season?
They tried to do a good job of keeping us out of the gym. I know one of the days they ran long, so a bunch of us players got to see NBA training camp in action, which was a really cool experience. I didn't get to talk to any of the guys really at the time, but I had some good interactions on my visit there.
Appreciate it.
Two more, Walker and then Mike.
Con, you had such a good two-man chemistry with Kaman Malawach at Duke. Now you have the chance to throw some lobs to Mark Williams around here. One, have you heard about Charlotte? What has Mark said about Charlotte, if you have had a chance to talk to him? And two, do you envision having similar chemistry with Mark once you get to the NBA?
Yeah, I haven't had really many conversations with him about Charlotte specifically, just about playing in the NBA, playing after coming from Duke, what you need to prepare for. But yeah, that would be great to have a similar connection that way. Obviously, Mark's a really, really good player. And, hopefully we can develop a similar chemistry.
Mike, last question for Con.
Hey, Con. I know that the emotion of being drafted and all those things, the realization of a dream has kind of been the overwhelming thought for you, but have you had a moment to kind of figure out how you factor into this lineup and the guys that you'll be playing alongside, or is that still down the road for you in terms of your thought processes?
I haven't thought about it too much yet. I definitely feel confident in my ability to be able to affect winning with any group of guys out there. And I have good confidence in my ability to find a way to be an effective player out there.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. That'll do it. Thank you, Con. Appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
All right, again, the newest Charlotte Hornet, only for a few minutes, though, because they're going to pick at 29, as we heard with the trade. Newest Charlotte Hornet, Con Knippel there, speaking from Brooklyn via Zoom with the Charlotte media that is in Uptown. Again, it's a Zoom, so thanks for bearing with us, but wanted you to get to Con's comments there. Obviously, will not play with Mark Williams. He was traded during that call. We will see Con in a much clearer way on Friday in South End as he is introduced to the media here in town. Do want to get to a clear shot of Cooper Flagg, who in all the madness of tonight, again, Dylan Harper skipped him on the podium because he's been getting run around, but Cooper Flagg did take time with WFMY's Logan Campbell for a quick chat after going number 1 overall to Dallas. Here it is.
We are with the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, Cooper Flagg. Cooper, you are a Dallas Maverick. Has it hit you yet that this is becoming a reality, and what are you looking forward to the most when you get down to Dallas?
Yeah, I think it's starting to hit me a little bit, but not fully. It was such a blur out there once I heard my name called, and everything from there has been kind of a blur. But I think for me, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to learn. Being surrounded by, AD, Kyrie, Clay, those guys that are, established and Hall of Fame caliber guys. I think it'll be a great opportunity for me to just learn a lot.
No doubt about it. Cooper, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. We'll for sure miss watching you at Duke.
Thank you.
Good luck in Dallas.
I mean, to get any time at all from the number 1 pick in the draft, moments after his draft, that is a great hustle there by Logan, so we appreciate that. We do have Cooper Flagg's full comments from the press room in Brooklyn as the 18-year-old Duke Blue Devil, perhaps the greatest Duke freshman of all time, as Jay Billis says, spoke to the media after getting run around for a while, but eventually was able to sit down, catch his breath, and then get peppered with questions up there in New York. Take a listen.
All right, let's start in the middle, the second row.
Cooper, on behalf of all the internet conspiracy theorists who couldn't be here tonight, I have to ask, there are tons of rumors floating around that the NBA gave Dallas the pick to get you in exchange for Luka Doncic. Do you have any reaction to that?
No. I don't know what to say about that. I have no insider information, if that's what you're looking for. But, I just feel blessed for the way it all worked out.
Front row on the right.
Congratulations. Has it started to sink in yet? I know the journey has been a long one, and it finally culminates tonight.
I don't think so. I don't think it's set in yet. It feels surreal. I'm just playing the moments back in my head, standing up, hearing my name, and it went so fast. Like it feels like a blur, but I just feel really blessed and honored just to be here.
Last row.
Hi, Thomas Urban from AFP. Could you see yourself becoming the second first pick to ever win a championship in his rookie season? Like, is that the goal, winning a championship?
Of course, yeah. I think my mindset has always been to be a winner. So I'm gonna try and win, as hard as I can anywhere I go. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being successful and winning a lot of games for sure.
Second row on the right.
Cooper, you have become the face of Maine to a lot of the people around the country and probably the world. What's that like, and is there any pressure that kind of comes with that?
It means a lot to me, to have the support of the whole state. And, I know how many people showed up today and supported me at some of the draft parties back home. So, it feels amazing knowing I can inspire younger kids. I was in their shoes really not that long ago. So just to know I can give those kids those feelings and have the whole state behind me, it means a lot.
Third row in the middle.
Cooper, how much have you been able to enjoy the process, the hype leading up to the draft versus inside wanting to just get going and get to work doing what you do?
Yeah, I tried to enjoy it as best I could. Obviously, I'm antsy, I'm anxious. I wanted to get going. I was working out the whole time, and I was excited to, get this process over with. But at the same time, it's a dream come true to go through this whole process, be here, enjoy it. And I think I try to do that to the best of my ability.
Standing here on the left.
Congrats. Growing up as a kid and dreaming about the NBA, what was the most expensive thing you ever dreamt of buying when you become one?
I don't know. I don't think I ever had a taste for expensive things or, thought about, I'm going to buy this or this when I get older and have money. So I don't really have an answer for that.
First row here on the left.
Cooper, Newey Scruggs, NBC5 Dallas. You're going to a team where you've got as you make your transition to this league. And LeBron James also said that he felt by you going to a place like Dallas where they've got some guys who've been #1 picks and NBA champions, it could help you.
100%. I'm really excited. I think I keep saying I'm excited to be a sponge, to get down there and just learn, be surrounded by, Hall of Fame caliber guys, and just to be able to learn from them. It's going to be an incredible experience. I feel so blessed, to be in the position I am, and just to get down there, like I said, be a sponge, learn, and try and grow my game as much as I can.
First row on the right.
Cooper, being here in New York, there's a ton of speculation about Jason Kidd potentially leaving the Mavs to coach the Knicks. Has he given you any assurance that he'll be your coach? And if so, what do you kind of hope to learn from him?
No, I haven't had those conversations yet at all, but I think talking with, Coach Kidd, my workout, and even after I got picked, I was on the phone with him for a minute. I think he's just excited. He has a good vision for me and what I can do and how I can impact the game, so I'm excited to just talk to him more.
Last row on the left.
Cooper, congratulations. Your season ended about 2.5 months ago. Since then, a lot has been going on. I'd love to hear, how have you been spending your time? Skill development, conditioning, personal, business side. Can you talk about how you balance all that and kind of how you've been spending your time, please?
Yeah, I've been in the gym. I took a little bit of time off after the season, I think, for sure. Let my body kind of reset and heal. But then I've been in the gym. My personal trainer, Matt McKenzie, he's been with me since I was young, in 4th grade, just skill development-wise. So just been in the gym with him a lot. I went through the whole pre-draft process with a group out in L.A. For CAA. So I was in a group, working out every day, pushing, the other guys pushing me to just get better. And then I've just been doing, a lot of workouts, just trying to get better in a lot of different areas.
Okay. Last question here on the left.
Hey, Ben Couch, NBA.com. You've gone through this process with your guys from Montverde and also Duke, and now you get to see Congo in the top 5 with you. What's that mean to you along the way, and particularly with him?
It's incredible. I heard, the announcement while I was doing the interview out there, and I had to stand up and just clap for him because, nobody deserves it more than Con. That was my roommate last year. So, just be able to have this moment with him, both of us in the top 5, it feels incredible. I know how much hard work he puts in. I know how dedicated he is. So just super happy for him and his family.
Thank you, Cooper.
Thank you, guys. Yes.
All right, Cooper Flagg at his news conference in Brooklyn soon after being the number 1 overall pick. We also heard from Cooper with our very own Logan Campbell moments before that. Jeremy, I mean, dude, the part of the return to the Charlotte Hornets, just hit us with it. This just happened.
Vasilije Micic is coming back to the Hornets.
It seems he fell out of favor with Charles Lee. I mean, to recap, guard from Europe who came in, very lauded for his accomplishments over there as like a 30-year-old rookie, showed some real promise. I believe that was before Charles Lee, and then seemed to not be in favor with Charles Lee, and some of it seemed to be warranted.
Again, Charles loves defense, and Micic wasn't giving you defense, but also when Micic first came to the Hornets, he was a completely different player by the end of his Hornets tenure. When he came, I remember watching him and saying, wow, this is a pure point guard who's looking to pass first, get his teammates involved, set up Nick Richards, who had a great connection with him early on, and then we started to see Micic say, hey, I'm just taking this step back 3. Hey, I'm taking this layup maybe where I shouldn't. And I think that's where he fell out of favor, where he was brought here to be a facilitator, to kind of come in for that LaMelo Ball role and still be able to feed guys and find them in their spots. And he somehow transitioned into a shoot-first guy, which isn't what the Hornets got him for.
To me, it just seems like he's the guy you take to get the deal done, not necessarily, listen, we really want this guy back. I mean, do you think he's suiting up for the Charlotte Hornets this year?
I don't. I don't see a way that he does, especially with the Con pick, where we have to target defensive backcourt players, and he is the antithesis of that right now in his career.
So Vasilije Micic coming back from the Phoenix Suns, but certainly more about the picks than about the player. If Jeff Peterson does not listen to Jeremy Grandison and pick Tidjane James, do you have a gut in that range of where he will go?
Tidjane?
In the 29th, pick 29.
I think of where
Jeff will pick.
His only option really is to go for a big who can be a rim protector. So if you're gonna go for any of the options there, of course you could go for someone like Thomas Sorbert, 6'10" center out of Georgetown. You could also go for a guy like Maxime Reynal.
Yep. ACC legend.
But I just watched the NBA playoffs, and like I said at the very start of this, you have to look at what matters in the playoffs. That's where you want to be. That's what you need to scout for. That's what you need to evaluate. And guys like Tidjane, guys like Elijah Martin are the guys that are impactful deep in those playoff rounds.
All right, the Hornets do still have picks 33 and 34, I believe. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's just catch up on the draft a little bit because you've been following this. I was all like, where are we going after the Con Knipple pick? So, again, to recap, Bailey to the Jazz at 5, Trey Johnson to the Wizards at 6, Jeremiah Fears to the Pelicans, Igor Demon to the Brooklyn Nets, South Carolina's Colin Murray-Boyles goes 9th to the Raptors. Kaman Malawach, drafted by the Rockets, I believe he did get traded to Phoenix, though.
Wow.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The player rights were traded to Phoenix. I'm a little behind on this, but Cedric Coward, there was a trade involving Cedric Coward for the Blazers as well, correct? And the Grizzlies?
Yes.
So there were trades right at the back end of that top 10. Derek Queen selected by the Atlanta Hawks at 13th. Player rights traded to New Orleans. And Carter Bryant from Arizona goes to the Spurs, and Oklahoma City is on the clock. Oklahoma City, what are their needs after winning the NBA title?
Not many, man.
Not players and not picks. Like, sure, we'll pick something. Yeah.
OKC is in an incredibly opportunistic spot where the second apron Grim Reaper will come for every single team. We saw it come for the Boston Celtics, but the Thunder are more equipped to combat it and fight it off for as long as possible. When guys like Cason Wallace and guys like Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, when other teams want to give them more money, the Thunder still have the assets and the draft picks to be able to replace those guys with basically carbon copies of who they already are. So maybe we see Sam Presti just draft another guy like Cason Wallace or draft another guy like Aaron Wiggins, getting ready for when those guys inevitably get a bigger pay raise from someone else. You can get that guy you drafted right now, slide him into that spot, and keep the engine running without any problems.
All right, so we're a little behind on this, but yes, Malawach is going to Phoenix.
Wow.
As he will join Mark Williams. What is Phoenix doing, and
Nick Richards
how
still
do
a
you
member
see
of the
that
Phoenix Suns?
working out? I'll look that up, but I believe so. How does that strike you off the bat? You seem shocked.
If I'm Devin Booker, and this is tough because the loyalty thing comes into play, he is a big advocate, not advocate, he admires Kobe, and you want to stay on that one team for your entire career. But Devin Booker, I'll look right into the camera when I say this, the first 5 years of your career, you weren't going anywhere. The NBA bubble happened, you found a good, I guess, rhythm, you turned the corner, and now you were in the NBA Finals in 2021. 4 years later, you're right back to where you were as a rookie. You don't have building blocks. You're 28. You're about to enter your prime, and now you have three centers: Kaman Malawach, Mark Williams, and Nick Richards. What are you going to do? Are you the next domino to fall? Because as we've talked about in the Eastern Conference, there's so much room to grow. You can see teams go from 5 to 1. Maybe Devin Booker could be the next guy on the outs because, truthfully, I don't know what Phoenix is doing.
Maybe they're not done. Maybe there's something else,
I sure
another
hope
move
they're
to be
not
made
done.
with a big man. And it does look like Micic, from reporting, it's just a salary match. So sometimes that is just a matter of putting the piece right in the slot that it fits to get the deal done, which is what you wisely said was the case there. Danielle Stein, and she tweeted this, I think Khan said it though, meeting with Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee for dinner, said that they separated themselves from the rest of the NBA, saying that after they become his new bosses. But, you know, we heard a lot about who didn't work out for the Hornets or who might not have. We heard that Con Knippel did. So, you know, should we have read more into the situation? I guess we thought it was a distinct possibility. But it seems like the Hornets were convicted on this guy, like you mentioned before, and not going down the draft and trade path for Ace Bailey.
Absolutely. I think Danny Ainge can go and take Ace Bailey and do whatever he wants to do down that route. He can either keep him or he could leverage him for other stuff from other teams, but we'll see.
All right, Jeremy, thank you. We are going to get out to Brooklyn because Logan Campbell has Con Knippel, and we're going to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, so we're going to the same spot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, you know, your life just got a little bit easier.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are here with the newest Charlotte Hornet and the 4th overall pick in the NBA, Con Knippel. Con, has it hit you yet? You are staying in North Carolina and you're going to be in Charlotte.
I'm super excited. Love North Carolina this year, obviously. Had a lot of fun, and you know, I'll just be down the road.
Take us through that moment when you heard your name called. What were you feeling?
Just a lot of gratitude. You know, what an extreme blessing from God. You know, sharing it with your family is also just a really, really special feeling.
Yeah, why did you bring all of your brothers up on stage with you? What was the importance of that?
That's something ESPN wanted to do, but also I think it just showed what family means to me. And, you know, it's always fun to go up there and do something fun with those guys.
Talk about family. Duke has a brotherhood. You had Cooper Flagg go first. Kaman got taken 10th. To have 3 of you go in the top 10 in the NBA draft, how special is that?
Oh, it's so special. I mean, I think it's big time. It shows where Coach Shire's program's at. And, you know, hopefully, I know for a fact that the brotherhood will keep it going.
What was it about Charlotte during this draft process that you thought, okay, I could see myself playing there?
Yeah, I mean, having the interviews at the Combine and then in my visit there with the team, you know, getting to know Jeff Peterson and Coach Lee a little bit, it was really special. You know, they're really, really good people, and I felt that right away from that first interview at the Combine. And so I'm super glad they pulled the trigger, and I can't wait to be a Hornet.
It doesn't hurt that you're used to winning inside the Spectrum Center. What can Charlotte fans expect to see from you this season?
Yeah, well, they're going to see. I loved it in the draft. They showed me diving on the floor for my clip, so they'll see some more of that, and hopefully some threes going down.
All right, Con, congratulations. We look forward to watching you in Charlotte.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Great stuff from Logan Campbell with Con Knipple live from Brooklyn, New York. Con's going to make his way down to Charlotte and be introduced in South End on Friday afternoon. Whom he is introduced with, we will find out, Jeremy Grandison, because the Hornets have one more pick tonight at the last part of the first round at 29. We are still 14 picks away from that. Jeremy, I love a lot of what I heard from Con Knipple there. It matches up with what you were saying, but first, what do you think of the hat? The draft hat.
I like the hat. I may be in the minority here, but I like the cursive. It's a little minimalism. We've seen that happen over time in just not only the NBA, but the world as a whole. But I do like the hat. I do think the hat actually kind of goes hand in hand with who Con is. It's not over the top. Someone that doesn't speak too much. It's not too flashy, but it gets the job done. And I think Con will be a great addition in Charlotte.
Hat and basketball breakdowns you can only get here on WCNC Plus and WFNY Plus from Jeremy Grandison, which, man, I've enjoyed having you on. You got something for everybody in this draft. You've been following this stuff. You've been following the Charlotte Hornets for a long time, putting in the hours for a 19-win team, and we hope it improves. One thing I did like hearing from Con Knipple in that interview with Logan Campbell is that he loved at the draft that they showed a highlight of him diving on the floor. And that just speaks to his mentality, and it is something that the Hornets, any team needs, but the Hornets need it too.
Absolutely. You think of guys like Moussa Diabate, another guy who's diving on the floor, who, if anything, we talked about, Con's defensive deficiencies. Moussa's not a guy who's 7 feet tall with the longest wingspan, but Moussa tries. Moussa's diving on the floor for balls. He's getting the 50-50 chances. He's just working harder than his peers, and that's why he's had so much success. Con already has the talent. If he can match and mix that with the same intensity that Moussa Diabate has, that Brandon Miller has, that Josh Okogie has, man, I think this could be a great addition for the Hornets.
All right, Sorber from Georgetown goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Another big body there for the defending NBA champions. Just thoughts on adding him. I mean, he's got to find a spot somehow. They've got some rim protection. They've got some guys down low. Any thoughts on Thomas Sorber? I didn't expect to get to him tonight, but here we are.
I've got some Sorber takes.
Okay, let's hear them.
So for Sorber and OKC, what we've seen with OKC is they have a lot of floor spacing bigs. They have Chet Holmgren. They have Kenrich Williams. They have Jalen Williams, not the J-Dub that we all know. Jalen, J-A-L-I, or J-A-Y-L-I-N, Williams. They also need another guy like Hartenstein. They need another wrinkle who can be a big guy, who can be a rim protector. Now, Hartenstein, for as much as he brings to teams, I think his lateral quickness isn't that great, which is why we didn't see him get that many minutes in that Pacers series, was because the Pacers spread the floor. They make sure that they have as much space as possible, and then they can attack you. A guy like Sorber, a little better with his feet, might be able to help them in some key spots. And, of course, with OKC, they don't need him playing 20 minutes a night. They just need, hey, Sorber, one possession here, one possession there. Can you gradually learn, and in 3 years, can you maybe help us win another championship?
All right, Grizzlies on the clock next, then Minnesota, Washington, Brooklyn, Miami. I'm very fascinated by Kasper Siakachonis from Illinois, the big-bodied playmaking point guard who, some people had the Hornets trading back to take. Would have been interesting, the fit there or lack thereof with LaMelo Ball. Do you see a team here in the next 5 picks that you kind of identify as Siakachonis territory?
I do.
Don't let it be the Miami Heat.
Another person in the division.
Low draft pick that kills the Hornets.
So I will say, with a guy like Kasper, he kind of reminds me of Denny Advia. And I know that Denny on the Wizards...
and they're up soon, too.
Yeah, and Denny had a kind of slow start on the Wizards, and then he goes to the Blazers, and now he looks like a completely different player, and the Blazers are saying, wow, thank you for giving us Denny Advia. I think Kasper can be the same, but... just like Denny, you need time for these European guys. Not even European, because he went to a college here in the States. You just need to give them time to be able to learn the feel, the speed, the physicality of the NBA. And once they do, they may be able to acclimate to what the NBA offers. And then also produce at a high level.
All right, 2 second-round picks tomorrow night as it stands now for the Charlotte Hornets. Early second round, 33 and 34. They're also picking at 29th. Based on my experience watching these drafts and watching the Hornets, it doesn't feel like they're picking 2 straight players there, that one of those could be a chip. Do you like anybody there? Does your guy Tidjane James fall to that spot? Because he's not guaranteed to be a first-round pick.
And Tidjane, when I look at projections, he is not in the first round.
Right.
But
so
he's
he
one
could
of
get
those
him
guys
there.
where I'm saying, to hell with the projections. Go and get Tidjane because he will help you win games. If not for him, another guy I'm targeting, kind of same build, a little shorter, has the same feistiness on defense. That's Elijah Martin on UF. We saw what he did in the national championship game, in the entire NCAA tournament. He has the competitiveness. He has the fire that the Hornets desperately need. He can knock down a 3. He can make quick decisions out of a swing corner pass. I think that he can be a great addition as well.
All right, one thing I did not get to with the pick of Con Knipple is, who is it bad for on this Hornets roster? Is anybody going to be on the outside looking in? You've got the Trey Mann situation about to fire off. Of course, his agent says he's good to go after playing 13 games last year, but he's a restricted free agent. You've got Nick Smith Jr. on the roster. Who may be forced out of this of some playing time or even a roster spot with that pick?
I would say Nick Smith Jr. And I wanted to go Josh Green, but I think you need to have some veteran experience on that team. So what Josh does on defense could be really helpful if he can stay healthy on the court and knock down that 3 at a higher clip, because he wasn't shooting it well last season. But for Nick Smith at that 2-guard spot, you have Trey Mann, who really is the Nick Smith that the Hornets want, but was injured, so Nick got more minutes. I think Nick might be the odd man out with Con being a Hornet.
All right, Jeremy, as we wrap up here, a couple of minutes to go here on the WCNC Plus, WFMY Plus live draft show. We do need to get ready for our 11 o'clock shows on both WFMY in Greensboro and WCNC here in Charlotte. Of course, the Hornets do still have a pick at the very end of the first round. We will certainly have coverage on both stations for you of who that is coming up. But as we sit here today, seeing the Hornets go safe at 4 and get Con Knipple, but then make a significant move, trading Mark Williams, again, to Phoenix for a first-round pick tonight and one in 2029. What are your takeaways right now? This is still somewhat incomplete of Jeff Peterson's second draft.
This makes me think that they didn't just go and get the 29th pick just to have it. They must have evaluated someone around that area who they're saying, you know what? I think we can sneakily take him in the first round and come out of here as gangbusters. And for that reason, Jeff, make the right decision. I don't want to say it again, but go get Tidjane, or go get someone that is a defensive menace. If not Tidjane, you need more of those archetypes